नमस्ते इन्वेस्टर्स। टाइम वॉज 2022 जब सारे न्यू एज कंपनीज लिस्ट हो रही थी मार्केट में एंड सबके शेयर प्राइस एटलीस्ट 50% से तो फॉल कर रहे थे। उसमें से ही एक इंटरेस्टिंग बिजनेस मॉडल था रेट गेन ट्रैवल टेक का। जब मिस्टर अंकित कनोडिया जी ने हमारी मिशन स्माइल इन्वेस्टिंग कम्युनिटी पे ये आइडिया प्रेजेंट करा था एंड नेचुरली तब बिकॉज सारे सेक्टर में इतना पेसिमिज्म था तो वो आइडिया काफी कम लोग ट्रैक कर रहे थे। एंड फास्ट फॉरवर्ड 2 years नाउ आफ्टर द फाइनेंशियल्स हैव कम इन, रेट गेन इज द टॉक ऑफ द टाउन एंड हर कोई इन्वेस्टर कह रहा है कि काफी अच्छा स्टॉक कर सकता है आगे परफॉर्म। नो, ऑल्दो वी आर नॉट रिकमेंडिंग दिस कंपनी बाय एनी मींस, बट व्हाट वी बिलीव इज कि सिंस ये स्टॉक काफी ज्यादा ट्रैक्शन गेन कर रहा है, सो इट इज अ राइट टाइम टू शेयर आवर रिसर्च ऑन द कंपनी, व्हाई वी लाइक द बिजनेस 2 years बैक एंड आगे क्या की ग्रोथ ट्रिगर्स है जो अभी भी प्ले आउट कर सकते हैं। इफ यू लाइक द सेशन then you can become the part of Mission Smile investing community, wherein we are offering a special 20% discount on our community offering. So become a member now. Thank you.
So a very good morning to all of you who have joined us on a Sunday. I'm Ankit Kanodia, co-founder and partner SmartSync Services. And today we are having our 17th Mission Smile webinar. And from this one, we have made a change in our format. We have now allowed non-members to join individual webinars for a small fee. So welcome to all the non-members who have specifically registered for this webinar. I hope you'll try and do justice to your time and money. Okay, so now let's get started. I'm very excited, especially for this one, because we at SSS have been very bullish on the travel and travel related theme for the last 2-3 years now. So this company is just an extension of that. So you can check our SmartSync Services blog for our posts on the travel sector in the year 2020, right? And then we presented on 3 travel and travel related companies last year in May 2021, when the second wave of COVID was on, right? And today, just after that, 1 year, 1.5 years have gone, and we are again presenting on another company which is directly related to travel and the travel related space, right? So now let's get started. We are trying to, this is a SaaS tech company, and including myself, there are so many people in the audience today who are probably from a non-tech background. So we will try to explain it in such a simple way by taking examples from non-tech sectors so that anyone can understand. We will try to keep it very, very, very simple and not make too much and not speak too much about the jargons so that you get the gist of what it is. And anywhere, any person has any doubt, you can, the chat box is there. Plus, if I keep on speaking for 1.5 hours or 2 hours, it will become a very boring interaction or monotonous. So what we'll do today is after 20-25 minutes, I'll take a break. We'll see if anyone has any questions. So that way it will become more interacting also. And also we'll get it will break the monotony, right? So what we are trying to cover through today's presentation. So these are the 3 broad questions we'll try to cover. Of course, there will be a lot more, but the 3 broad questions are why investors should look at RateGain travel technologies now. So before the webinar started, Amar and myself, we were discussing about the valuation as to how this is obscenely valued in terms of the traditional metrics and all. So despite that, why we are saying that investors should probably look at RateGain travel technologies now. The second question would be, what are the sectoral tailwinds that can propel its growth? Some of it are probably very clear to all of you already because we are in this post-pandemic era where we see revenge travel going on. And then, of course, you can't have any investing idea to be presented without looking at the risk. And any company is none of the companies can be completely risk free, right? So there are some risks attached to this kind of investment as well. Okay, so we'll start with the standard boring disclosure. I'll not read everything. It's just fair to say that I hold shares of RateGain Travel Technologies. So it is fair to assume that I will be biased in my analysis to a certain extent. And we being a SEBI registered organization, we need to follow this disclaimer pattern which we are following. And we have also recommended RateGain to our clients. Now, we want to make a distinction here. We have two different types of model portfolio. One is lump sum model portfolio and the other is SIP model portfolio. So RateGain is in our SIP model portfolio and not in lump sum model portfolio. We'll come to why in one and why not in the other when we'll come to the valuation part of the slide. Okay. So with this boring disclosures out of the way, let's get started. So these are the broad agenda for today's meeting. So we'll start with some analogies, how RateGain Travel Technologies business can be seen through some different analogy, or how do I say, the different models, mental models, because these mental models actually help us register the power of a business, right? Then we'll talk something what we have learned from Buffett, which we believe is relevant over here. We'll deep dive into the business of the of RateGain. We'll talk about future growth plans, some financial metrics. Don't worry, we'll not get too technical. We'll just try to explain all the SaaS related terms in a very simplistic manner so that you can all understand what we want to try to share about RateGain, right? And then, as usual, we'll discuss about the valuation, investment thesis, and at the end, the risk, right? So we'll start with this phrase, ancillary ka ancillary. So let me put a disclaimer here. This is not an original phrase by me or SmartSync Services. We have a very senior investor, Mr. Atul Rawal in Gandhinagar, who is an expert in small cap investing. And from him, we learned this concept of ancillary ka ancillary. So let me explain with an example. So if you think agriculture related economy will do well, the first talk which comes to mind is escorts, right? That okay, because escorts deal with tractors which is used in the farm, which is used by the farmers. So probably escorts is a very good company to look at, right? Similarly, if you look at escorts, you will then most of us go to the second step, which is BKT. BKT produces tires which are used by farmers, right? So that is how most of us, in fact, I would be lying if I say that I always go to the third step. Yeah, we at SmartSync Services also generally get stopped in the second stage. So that is where Atul Rawalji actually explained to us that there is a third step also. That is ancillary ka ancillary, right? So if you really believe that farming as a farming industry will do well, or farming sector will do well, that's why the tractors will do well, and that's why the sales of BKT tires will do well. You should go one step ahead, because many investors will not go towards that, and that is Raj Ratan. Let me put a disclaimer. We hold BKT and we don't have any holding in escorts and Raj Ratan. So it's not a recommendation here. It's just to explain how you should always think like as an investor, you should not stop at the OEM or the next level, which is the ancillary. You should try to look at the third level, which is ancillary ka ancillary, right? You get meaning now, right? And similarly, RateGain Travel Technology is also an ancillary ka ancillary. Kaise? If you are looking for travel, say if you are looking for booking a hotel, right? So travel का नाम सुनते ही सबसे पहले what industry comes to mind? Hotels and resorts, right? So they are the, if you just take the example of the previous slide, so they are like the escort, right? Which which will definitely get benefited by the tailwinds in the travel economy. But the next step is, अगर travel अच्छा करेगा तो ये Make My Trip, Ease My Trip, Booking.com, why will they not do well? In fact, they should do even better because they are the ancillary to these travel companies, right? Now, that is where most of us don't go to the third step, which is if these companies are going to do well, if OEM is going to do well, if OEM ka ancillary is going to do well, why you don't think about the ancillary ka ancillary, which is RateGain. So I'm assuming a few of our participants today don't know what RateGain does. So maybe you are not getting the concept right now, but please bear with us. In the subsequent slides, you will definitely get what RateGain does, and you will then try to relate it to why we are calling it as ancillary ka ancillary, right? So we all have heard about this phrase, which is called the data is the new oil, right? So if data is the new oil, what is RateGain? That is what we have to understand. And we are purposefully trying to explain to you through this analogy, because that is how you will understand what we want to say about RateGain. Because RateGain is a technology which is very new. It works in a technology which is very new. It works in an industry which was not so tech enabled, say 5 years, 10 years from now. So that is why we have to understand this business from the analogy of other businesses that will help us understand what RateGain is actually doing. Now, you know that everybody knows about this, that data is the new oil. It's like a cliche today, right? But let's go one step further. If data is the new oil, there are companies which not only hold data. So just look at oil companies. If you look at the whole oil value chain, there are companies which there are companies which produce oil, there are companies which transfer the oil, and then there are companies which then refine the oil, right? But RateGain is one company which is actually doing everything. Let me explain what they do. They are bringing data, they are collating data. It's just like they are not just the pipe, what you can see in the screen here, but they are the owner of this whole system, wherein they are bringing the oil, storing the oil, and then refining the oil, and then transporting it to the people who actually need that refined version of the oil, and just replace oil with data or technology data for hotel industries, right? So that is what RateGain is all about, right? Now let's get more deeper onto what actually RateGain does. उनका एकदम clear फंडा है, clear focus है. They are in the business of revenue maximization for the travel industry. So travel industry में अगर आप software की बात करो, if you talk about enabling tech, there are so many areas. They are saying that हम लोग को और कुछ नहीं करना है. We will only focus on increasing the revenue or maximizing the revenue for our customers. Who are their customers? The hotel companies, the OTA agents. These are their major customers. And they say that these customers should actually maximize their revenue using our system, our tech-enabled system. And how they try to do that? उसमें भी एकदम clear clarity है उनके. We'll do this in 3 steps. We'll first help them acquire customer. We'll make sure that they are able to retain more customers. And then third is that we'll try to expand the wallet share. So ये 3 चीज पे focus करते हैं. So when we had a chance to have a meeting with the RateGain management, once on call and once physically in Mumbai as well. So what they clearly say that कि ERP में नहीं जाना है या hotel management में नहीं जाना है, right? We will focus only on this because that is the crux of the hotel industry. Because if you look at hotel industry or airline industry, because they are not just focusing on hotels and OTAs only, they are also looking at airline, they are also looking at car rentals. So they, agar aap just take an example of hotel, you all must be aware of the fact that all hotels or airlines have perishable inventory. That is their biggest pain point, right? So biggest pain point क्या है कि भाई आपके पास फ्लाइट में जस्ट फॉर द एग्जांपल 200 सीट है और अगर उसमें से 10 सीट एम्प्टी रह गई तो दैट inventory is lost forever, because in the next flight you can't have 10 people extra, right? If you are selling a product, like say if you are selling a hardware, अगर आपका आज 10 प्रोडक्ट 10 आइटम कम बिका, कल you can actually increase the number of items by 10 and you can make over your lost sales today. But in case of an airline industry or in case of a hotel industry, अगर आपका आज 90% ऑक्यूपेंसी है तो जो 10% आज आप लूज कर गए वो आप कभी भी नहीं मिलेगा आपको, राइट? एंड दैट इज वेयर companies like RateGain is promising to all these hotels and airlines and car rentals that we will make sure that your occupancy rate goes up. And how will we do that? Through our technology, we'll make sure, I'll go into the details कि वो क्या करते हैं, but right now एक बार पहले मोटा मोटा समझ लेते हैं कि what they actually provide, what kind of value proposition they provide to the travel industry. They say that we will make sure कि आपका occupancy level बढ़ जाए, because आपका सबसे बड़ा pain point is your perishable inventory. अगर आपका occupancy level बढ़ गया, so you will make more money and your business will be more sustainable. And if your business will be more sustainable, definitely we will also make money through you, right? So that is in nutshell what they try to explain to the, or they offer to the travel industry, right? I hope till now everything is sorted. Now let's bring in Warren Buffett here. If you remember, if you are followers of Warren Buffett and learned some investing principles of how he used to do investing, or how he has created his empire like Berkshire Hathaway, you would know about his story of how he used to run his textile operations. And so there was an interesting story wherein a person came to him. I'm talking about sometime in the late 1950s or early 1960s. Someone came to Warren Buffett and said that we have a very good machinery which you should use for your textile operations, and you will save a lot of money out of it. So Warren Buffett actually explains to his shareholders in one of the letters that many business owners, they don't go to the next level as to they don't ask then what. So what Warren Buffett said, okay, through your superior plant or machinery, I will definitely save some money and maybe my production efficiency will improve. But then what? So he said, then you will be able to sell your product at a much lesser price, so you will have faster sales. Well, then what? Well, then what? Then you will have higher margin. So then Warren Buffett says, we are in a commoditized business. If I am doing something like this, aren't you going to try and sell the same machine to other textile mills? Yes, you are going to do that. So whatever efficiency I am getting, soon everyone will get, right? And the whole industry will be following the same improved machinery, and everyone will reduce their price. So over a period of time, you can say that nobody will benefit much out of it. Who will be the biggest beneficiary? The biggest beneficiary will be the person who is selling that machinery, right? That is what RateGain technology is all about today. RateGain technology is going to benefit because, again, travel, hotel, आप hotel ले लो, आप airline ले लो, या आप car rentals ले लो, it is also a commoditized business. You are not, as a you are not a Uber fan or a Ola fan. आपको जो सबसे conveniently मिल जाएगा, सस्ते में मिलेगा, जल्दी पहुंचा देगा, you will go for that. Same with your hotels, same with your flight, right? You don't have any affinity towards any particular brand, right? I'm not talking about the outliers. There are a few people, but generally we don't have. So this is a commoditized industry. So आपका next question होना चाहिए, or something which will come to your mind right now is कि भाई अगर सब होटल कंपनीज का बाद में यही होने वाला है, तो why don't they sit together and discuss this and uh, uh, don't take advantage of, as in इतना खर्चा क्या मिलेगा, why are they paying to someone like RateGain? And that is where this important mental model comes to our mind, which is prisoner's dilemma. So I'm not going into the detail. Many of you already know about the dilemma or the mental model, but let me explain in a very short way. Is that आप अगर simply अपने तरफ से सोचते हो, if you think about your own self, you behave in a different way. And when you think about what others will do, then you behave in a different way. And that kind of prisoner's dilemma comes. There is a famous mental model on this. You can search it on net. The crux of the model is that once if I be asking you to do something on a standalone basis, you will probably say no. But you will always say yes, because you know that I'm not just asking you that question. I'm going to ask 15, 20, or maybe 50 people like you the same question. And you are afraid that maybe others will say yes, and you will lose a lot of business out because of that. And that is why you say yes, because you don't want to lose business. You're afraid, right? So that is the kind of dilemma business men or business owners also feel a lot of time, right? So that is where RateGain has a long runway, because there will be many hotels, many airlines, many car rentals who will opt for their service, because they will always be afraid कि हम नहीं लेंगे, हमारा competitor ले लेगा तो हम लोग पीछे हट जाएंगे, right? So before going into detail as to what are their three different offerings and what they do, 11:30. So as I promised during the start, we will probably take a break here. If anyone has any question, you can ask now. You can raise your hand. I'll probably unmute you and you can then ask. Okay. Or you can probably write in the chat box if you don't want to speak. I don't see any question right now. Okay. So, yeah, I see one hand getting raised. So it is Amar. Yeah, Amar, I have sent you unmute request. You can speak.
Yeah, Ankit. So I know like RateGain doesn't have a listed peer in India, but then what would be the counterpart in say US or somewhere?
So that's a very good question, Amar. And we'll be covering the in detail about competition in the subsequent slides as well. So the beauty with RateGain is that they have three different offerings. Again, I'll be covering all those three different products and their offering in detail. And most of their competitors are point-to-point product competitors. The advantage with RateGain is, this is what they claim, that there is no other player who is vertically integrated in the whole value chain for the travel industry. And that is where the advantage is for RateGain.
Yeah,
Okay.
got it. It becomes a one-stop shop then, right? Which is what the client always looks for.
Right. So I have been able to find out a few competitors who are present both in two of their offerings. But I couldn't find any competitor who is present in all the three offerings which they work on. So that is where I believe they have an edge. But let me put a disclaimer. We still need to work hard and understand whether there are competitors like, as in there are any other player who are completely vertically integrated or not. Right, Amar?
Yeah, got it, Ankit. Thanks.
Thanks, Amar. So I see Avdut raising hand. So yes, Avdut, please go ahead.
Hi, Ankit bhai. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Just one question in the value chain. So, one point of view, if you look at it, it's a virtuous cycle because they are helping the hoteliers or the any other OTAs to fill the occupancies, increase the occupancies, right? Just I want to know their customer is just the hotels or the consumers. So if you look at that Warren Buffett story, two things are going to get benefited. One is the machine seller, and second is consumers are also going to get benefited. So where does the
Right.
consumer fit in this whole value chain of RateGain, or is it RateGain is not focusing on consumers in a sense? That's what I want to.
So
Thank
that's a very good question, Abdul bhai. And first of all, RateGain is exactly like that machine seller. So the machine seller was a B2B player, right? They
you.
were not having any interaction with the consumer. Same is the case with RateGain. RateGain also only caters to the B2B players. So their customers are actually only OTAs, uh, the hotel companies, and the airline and car rentals. Okay.
Okay.
They don't interact with the consumer at all. However, how RateGain is probably even more value, the value proposition of RateGain is probably better than that machine seller of a textile company, is that they provide very important consumer insights. So in that way, they are closer to consumer, even though they are not dealing directly with consumer, because they actually uh, on social media, they have their operations where what the consumer is doing on social media, actually those kind of insights are provided by RateGain to these hotel companies. So that is where you can say that probably they are far more valuable than that machine seller, because that machine seller has no interaction at all with the consumer. Over here, even though the end consumer is not related to, doesn't have any transaction with RateGain, but RateGain is actually getting exposed to a lot of consumer related data, and it which it packages and then mines it and give proper insights to these players, and that is where it becomes very, very, very valuable for these hotel companies. I hope I
Understood.
could make you
I
understand.
understood. So, as in you gave analogy of oil refining, the consumers who are having social media presence, that would be the oil, and this their RateGain is getting that oil and they are refining it and selling it to OTAs and hoteliers. Is that the correct understanding?
As I said in the beginning, so it is RateGain is having the whole value chain of that oil.
Hmm.
डेटा भी लेके वही आ रहे हैं, सो ऑयल लेके भी वही आ रहे हैं, ऑयल को स्टोर भी वही कर रहे हैं, और ऑयल को प्रोसेस भी वही कर रहे हैं, और बस खाली लास्ट में कंज्यूमर के जगह वो इनको दे रहे हैं, राइट?
Understood. 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 And what if something comes up for the consumer's benefit in other way, then whether their model will, what will happen to their models? Now consider they are giving insights about the consumers to hoteliers. Now we invert it. Something comes up which gives consumers insights that this is the hotel available which suits your uh, requirements on your previous record, and it is available at cheap. Then what will happen to RateGain in that sense?
Can you explain it again? I couldn't understand.
Now let's look at it. How what RateGain does is they will extract the data, and they will give the data insights to hoteliers or the OTAs, right? And
Right.
how they can concentrate few number of consumers and how they can increase their occupancy, right? That's their business model. Have I understood it correctly?
Yes, 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 yes.
So let's invert it. Something comes up which is helping consumers in a sense. If now I want to
I'm unable to understand what will come up which will give consumer the insight. That is what I'm trying to understand.
now consider I'm booking a room online, and some company comes up tomorrow, or maybe it could be there already. I'm not
Okay.
aware of, and it is giving directly insights to the consumer that these were your past transactions or whatever. But let's say Oyo is having data of the consumers, or Make My Trip, or Go Ibibo. They have insights about whatever you have booked, and they know where you can book, uh, or your choices. And they come up and they start giving insights to consumers within your range and within your ranking. Then will it contradict to the model of RateGain in that sense?
That's a very, very, very intelligent question. So what I can only say is that, see, RateGain also have the predictability model using AI. So if this something like this, which you said is going to happen, they will probably see some signs and pick it up at the early stage only. How will they react to it and what kind of solution they will come up with, that I'm unable to say because I am not a RateGain person. But this is something which because of the way their models and systems are built, they try to not only provide data, they also try to forecast consumer demand and consumer behavior over the next, say, 5 years, 5 months, 2 months, 5 days, 15 days. So if something like this is happening in the consumer thing, it will actually probably reflect in that model. And now talking about Oyo, which you said, Oyo, if they can come up with something, but Oyo right now is already their customer of RateGain, right? Oyo is already their customer. So अगर Oyo के पास ऐसा होता already, so they would not have taken what Oyo can do probably, which is that what you have said कि RateGain का system समझ के they will also do
Correct.
something like that,
Correct.
and they will target consumer rather than these guys. But
Hmm.
for that to happen, you try to understand it's not as easy a model to start, because यहाँ पे RateGain is completely integrated. Oyo is not integrated in that way. So Oyo has data of OTAs, but Oyo doesn't have all the details, all the data mining which has been done by RateGain. And if they try to do that, that will be ऐसा नहीं है कि RateGain को पता नहीं चलेगा और वो रातों रात खड़ा हो जाएगा. That is what but that risk is a definite risk which you have pointed out.
Yeah, so boiling frog kind of thing shouldn't happen in the case of RateGain. That's what.
Yes. I
Understood.
think Amar was saying something. Amar, let me just unmute you. I think you have posted something on the chat box. If you can share here, Amar, before we.
Yeah, Ankit, what Avdut was telling, na, it's more kind of, see, there are like couple of ways of looking at it. One thing is like targeted marketing, wherein RateGain, I think, is already doing it. For example, if I've done a transaction in the past, travel related, saying ki certain region I go and certain kind of hotels I stay in, then I get kind of like coupons and discounts and other things to encourage me to buy. So that becomes a targeting marketing. One is the social media influencer, right? That is the new thing which is going on, where they will create an ecosystem kind of thing in social media, and then it becomes more of a pull mode rather than a push mode. Then like-minded people will follow a influencer, and then will be biased based on what they are doing and what the decision is. That is the second part. Third part, I think, which this is what I gathered Avdut was mentioning about, is more on a kind of like a priceline.com or something like that, where we say ki they aggregate, they become an aggregator, they will collect all the discounts and just put it in their website. Again, the consumer goes to the website, and suppose I am planning a trip to say Nainital. Then I go to this kind of sites and say ki Nainital ja raha hu, so what are the things which I can get in discounts and all, and I go to the aggregate sites. All those three combined, I think RateGain ka business plan mein already hai. It might not be kind of a dedicated website per se, but when I was going through their media materials, right? So some of those things they are already doing it in the already there.
Right. So, but I think what Avdut was mentioning is also a possibility where he said that something which say some, because they will not Oyo will not say that to the hotels. Oyo will probably say that to the customers, the end consumer. So it may come to the notice of RateGain with a lag, And if they are not on their toes, they might have that kind of a problem. So I'm not saying this is something which will easily come up, but of course you cannot say that this kind of risk is not prevalent. It is there.
Yeah, yeah,
That risk
yeah,
is
yeah.
there.
Something.
Sorry, Amar, you got muted. Can you unmute
Yeah, yeah.
yourself?
If I just take 2 minutes more, Ankita, what I was trying to tell, if I help provide a simple analogy, na, if I look at say IT as an industry, so what happened initially, the outsourcing wave come in where the savings were there, and from developed world everything came to India, Philippines, and like low cost economies. But then over a period of time, due to security or due to kind of other stuff, now in-house they are kind of like having their own captive center kind of thing. But for that, this RateGain as a provider, those kind of things have to mature, reach a maturity level, and that is where I think the second level of risk will come in. I think
Right.
we might be a bit far away, but yeah, we will see how it proceeds. I got it
Yeah,
now.
fair point. Fair point,
Yeah.
Amar. Yeah, agree with you there. So I think someone else also raised his hand. Number 20. I don't know who you are. Uh, I have unmuted you. You can ask your question. Okay. You don't want to ask, so shall we proceed? Okay. So let me just start the presentation again. Okay. So I think you can see the presentation again. So these are the three different verticals of I see the hand getting raised again. Wait. Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm Ganesh Kumar. My name appears as 20. I don't know why. I have a doubt. I think there are two companies, Affle and Latent Technologies. They also claim to be in the space of getting customer insights to business. Are they in competition with this?
No, their market and RateGain market are different. So
Okay.
they are also SaaS players, but the market in which RateGain works is different different from the other two players you have taken name of.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ganesh.
Thank
Yeah. Avdut, let me just unmute you. My cursor is not working right now. Okay. So I can't find my cursor. Great. Great boon or bane of technology, you can say. Just bear with me. I'll find my cursor and maybe then Avdut, you can. Okay, thanks, Avdut. We'll take your question later. We'll start with sharing. Great. So I hope you can see the screen, right? Okay. So these three are the major vertical in which RateGain appears. I'm not going to read the slide and make it boring for you. Let me just explain to you in a very simple manner. And I'm sure some of you might be having some question related to all these three verticals. We'll take that up later on once we complete all the three verticals. So as you can see, they have these three vertical. One is the most earliest one was with which they started their company way back in 2004 was DaaS, which is data as a service. So how they started the business? Simple offering उनकी यही थी. Bhanu Chopra, the CEO of the company, he just started this business by reaching out to hotels in India and also abroad by saying that कि भाई हम लोग आपको एक ही चीज प्रोवाइड करने वाले हैं, वो है कस्टमर का डेटा. आपका कस्टमर किस प्राइस पे कितना इन्वेंट्री सेल कर रहा है, एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू गिव यू, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट you can change or calibrate your model so that you don't lose on sales because of underpricing, overpricing, or you don't lose on margins or profit because of underpricing. So that was the simple offering with which they started this business, which was data as a service, right? And later on, they kept on evolving as the technology evolved. They bring in a lot of new color and feature to this product. But this is basically what they do in this. They provide a lot of data to all their hoteliers, OTAs, and also airlines, yeah, car rentals, right? The second and the third has been the recent additions. In fact, these things happen only after, so DaaS, they started sometime in 2004, and it was a bootstrapped company back then. I'm talking about 2004. Until 2014-15, till they got VC money or investors with money, they were completely bootstrapped, and more or less their business were only focused on DaaS, but they were profitable. So that is there in their genes. And that is why you will see it is one of the rare new age companies which is in profit, right? This one and Cartwright Tech, these two companies are, and also the other one, I'm forgetting the name of that. जो map वाली company है, I keep forgetting the name of that company. So what they did after the investors pull in money, and what investors said that you are doing, thanks Samar, Map My India, CA Info System, right? So what the investors said that you have a wonderful product, but there are a lot of competitors who are already working in that domain, and there are other verticals in the whole value chain where you should also focus. But for that, you will need capital, because you can't keep growing like this and think that you will be able to reach there. So that is where they pulled in money, and they asked them to become a little more aggressive and do some acquisition and get. I'll cover the acquisition part in a subsequent slide, because that is very, very, very important and integral. But let's now focus only on these two businesses, which basically started with acquisition. So distribution is something which they started after acquiring Disco. Disco is a company which was basically having a very good, Disco was a wonderful product, but it was bleeding in losses in a American company, and they were finding it difficult to survive. So there's an interesting story about Disco where RateGain along with another company were bidding for Disco, and actually RateGain lost the bid for the first time, because they quoted a little lower amount, and the other party, I'm forgetting the name of the party, I have in my notes. If anybody wants, we can share it later after the presentation. That party actually won the bid, but something led to another, and that acquisition never happened. So the company, original company which was owning Disco, they came back to RateGain after a while, say after 6 months or so, and they said that, are you still interested? So they were interested, and they actually got the acquisition at $5 million lesser amount than their original bid. So that says a lot about their discipline in which they make acquisition. I'll cover the acquisition part separately so that you'll get more insights into how they look at acquisition. But that is how the distribution business starts. And what happens in the distribution, as you would have seen in the previous slide, distribution mein they are basically the pipe. वो pipe के अंदर में ही सारा data है, and that is where this data is being shared with not only the hotel companies but also the OTAs को भी data चाहिए कि hotels कहाँ पे है, and hotels को भी data चाहिए. There are so many OTAs all over the world who can actually help any hotel anywhere in the world to get more demand. But neither hotel knows about the OTAs, nor OTAs know about all the hotels. And that is where this RateGain comes into the picture where they say that हमारे पास होटल का भी पूरा डेटा है, हमारे पास OTA का भी पूरा डेटा है, चलो आप लोग दोनों को मिला देते हैं. And not that, it's not just about data. They also give you insights into what OTA is, which OTA is doing what which hotel is doing what. So that way, the value proposition is going multifold for both the people on the side of the hotel and also for the OTAs, right? And every year you will see in their annual reports or their presentation that some new OTAs have actually made them partner, or some new big hotel chain have made them partners, right? So that is about the distribution vertical. And the third one is MarTech. MarTech is a division where basically what they are doing is they are giving insights to, again, all their customers through what is happening online, how customer is behaving. So यहाँ पे वो लोग डायरेक्टली कस्टमर को देखते हैं और कस्टमर को देख के उसके हिसाब से हाउ द कस्टमर इज बिहेविंग ऑनलाइन इन टर्म्स ऑफ गूगल में क्या सर्च मार रहा है, फेसबुक में हाउ पीपल आर व्हाट पीपल आर सेइंग अबाउट देयर ट्रैवल प्लान्स और देयर ट्रैवल बिहेवियर, because we know that we are all social animals, and with the advent of all this social media platform, we have all started sharing a lot of things, right? So like I've just started committing that okay, I'll walk 10,000 steps minimum every day. So I have just started putting it on Twitter, so that I will always be afraid if I don't walk those 10,000 steps, people will think that I'm not doing it regularly, right? So that is why this kind of behavior or this kind of insights which you get from social media, because there will be, just to give you an example, there will be people. So just think from a point of view of, if you are a hotelier, you own hotels. If I am someone who likes playing cricket, और मैं जैसे ही होटल के रूम में एंटर करता हूँ, because the hotel had all my social media channel का सब स्टडी किया हुआ था, and they knew that okay, I am a cricket player, और यहाँ पे जैसे ही मैं एंटर करता हूँ कुछ क्रिकेट रिलेटेड कुछ बना के दे देते हैं. Just look at the kind of delight I'll see, find, and those things are priceless, right? So this is just one example, but the major purpose of MarTech division is to make sure that the ad spend which hotels and OTAs do, that ad spends के ऊपर उनका ROI gets increased. That is the main purpose. It's not just about delighting the customer, because you cannot measure delighting of the customer, right? You have to show your value proposition in some tangible form. So that is how they talk about their value proposition to their different customers, right? So this you can see, as I've already discussed, you can see some of the KPIs which they looked at: competitive rate intelligence, rate parity, and revenue optimization. एकदम clarity है कि क्या करना है, competitor क्या rate पे कर रहा है, कहाँ पे दे रहा है, क्या क्या कर रहा है, क्या rate, how can you pair your rate or put your rate compared to your competitor, and revenue optimization, right? How you can optimize. What do you mean by revenue optimization? कोई भी hotels में, we all know that it's a very seasonal and cyclical business, right? There will be times when there will be huge demand, and there will be times when there will be very slack demand. So you have to, अभी तक क्या हो रहा था in the past, they didn't have any software to predict or to automate all these things. They had to do it manually, and we know that कितना ही हम लोगों का insight हो, कितना ही experience हो as a businessman or a business owner, you can't do that on a real time basis, right? You have एक sense होगा आपको कि चलो ठीक है, अभी slack demand का period है, अभी peak demand का period है, but you can't optimize on your own, right? And that is where a company like RateGain fits in properly, which is providing all those things in a very organized manner and in an automated way, wherein your manual things go off and you focus only on then executing what the system is saying, right? And you can see what are the advantages: 6 billion price points, 500 plus data sources, AI technology, which helps them to provide their insight more and more accurate. And then the biggest advantage is forecasting, because forecasting is something you can't do on a manual basis. Impossible है. आप आज बैठ के फोरकास्ट करो कि नेक्स्ट 15 दिन में, नेक्स्ट 20 दिन में या नेक्स्ट 30 डेज में कैसा होगा. That can only be done through a system, and वहां पे if you can use that AI technology, that can be a really great advantage, and that is where RateGain is a good value addition for all these hotels, right? Next comes distribution. यहाँ पे वही मैंने आपको जो बोला ना, सबसे पहला काम है शादी करवा देनी है. इधर पे दूल्हा है, इधर पे दुल्हन है, दोनों को मिला देना है. That is the biggest part, because यहाँ पे सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम यही है कि many, as I said, I'm repeating again, but this is very important. Many OTAs based out of say Thailand, because Thailand is a very good tourist destination. They do not only focus on Thailand hotels. They know that the tourists which are coming to Thailand are global tourists. अगर इंडिया का कोई बंदा थाईलैंड में जाके हॉलिडे मना रहा है, देयर इज अ चांस दैट वो बंदा यूएस में भी जाके, नॉर्थ अमेरिका में जाके कोई और कंट्री में भी he or she will probably do holidays. So why focus only on the Thailand market, right? Similarly for hotels, you know that, okay, most of your demand is coming from your domestic market, but you also are aware of companies, aware of travelers who are coming from so many different parts, which you cannot keep a track on. How will you cater to them? By having control or by having collaboration with the OTA agents, right? So वहां पे OTA agents का अगर डेटा आपके साथ शेयर होगा कि उनका क्या इन्वेंट्री है, क्या डिमांड है, क्या आस्क है, then you will be able to target your end consumers not only in North American hotels but also all over the world. So that is a bigger advantage which this distribution vertical of RateGain provides to hoteliers, right? Hoteliers and OTAs, right? And the third point is conversion. So सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई आपको मैंने डेटा इसका दे दिया OTA का, OTA को बोला आपको मैंने इसका दे दिया. They also make sure कि रेट एंड इन्वेंट्री डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के साथ में आपको और इंसाइट्स ऐसे दे, इस तरह का प्रेडिक्टेबल मॉडल बनाए, इस तरह का सिचुएशन हो, क्रिएट हो कि योर कन्वर्जन लेवल गोज अप. Because if your conversion level is not going up, you are of no use, right? And RateGain is of no use to them. Just by sharing the data doesn't make sense, right? So that is what they focus on. And the advantages which they claim is they get demand from every market, serving all large chains in the United States. United States is their biggest market. I'll come to that. Why United States? Why not in India? A company which is founded in India, Indian founder, bootstrapped, इतना टाइम इंडिया में, फिर भी उनका यूएस में क्यों है? We'll cover that also in subsequent slide. And then this is MarTech. So MarTech में, as we said, social media, meta search marketing, 24/7 monitoring and engagement. So they also run these social media campaigns so that they keep their customers engaged with the end consumers. Because आप सारा खेला engagement का ही है, right? अगर आप अपने consumers से engaged रहेंगे, then there is a higher probability of those consumers becoming your actual end customer, or those target consumer becomes your actual consumer, right? And that is what they do. And you may think of this question कि ये hotel तो अपने भी कर सकती है, right? Just think about it in this way. Hotel कॉम्पिटिटर का भी डेटा निकाले, होटल OTA का भी डेटा निकाले, होटल डिमांड को भी फोरकास्ट करे, होटल सोशल मीडिया मार्केटिंग भी करे. ये सबके लिए what they will have to do, they'll have to have different teams for all these things, right? Or they'll have to prepare their own new model or system, which will again take time, take a lot of money, take a lot of जिसको बोलते हैं ना ट्रायल एंड एरर करके उसमें बहुत सारे स्लैक आएंगे, उसको ये करना पड़ेगा. If someone is giving you everything in one particular software where you don't have to do anything, you are getting everything, why will you not go for that, right? And that is where the biggest edge or advantage RateGain has over other players. So I think again we are close to 1 hour, so we can probably, if anyone has any question, we can take a couple of questions again. Any questions from anyone, or shall I go ahead? Anything related to any of the 3 divisions? Yes, I see Avdut. Yeah, Avdut, you had a question earlier also. Please go ahead.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ankit bhai, earlier one, just I wanted to mention, if correct me if I'm wrong. First thing is Apple is, I think, doing everything, not just one sector they are concentrated on. Whereas if we look at RateGain, it is just the one sector it is focused on, right? Hotels and OTA. So in a way, RateGain is going to cannibalize the revenues of Apple going further, right?
I have not looked at Apple closely to comment on Apple, but I only know one thing is that when you focus on one particular thing, one particular industry, one particular set of, and you are vertically integrated, your value would be much more than companies which are horizontally integrated.
Correct.
Right. So,
correct.
So that is the advantage of RateGain, you can say.
And same
Right.
thing I think happened in the case of Just Dial also. Earlier they were doing everything, and few companies came in, they started cannibalizing their revenues in different sectors. Okay.
Right. Right.
Second thing, I think you will definitely cover the revenue models, whether it is fixed one or the how it is
we'll
different. And I think as you mentioned that it's a seasonal business, travel business. So how their geographical presence at, I think that will also you'll cover, right?
Yeah, we'll cover that in
Okay.
the
Okay,
subsequent.
that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So as you can see this particular slide over here, you can see that, see, 2004-06 is when they started, right? And till 2014, whatever you are seeing is, in fact, not just 14, till 2017, whatever they were doing was just an improvement or incremental improvement on their data as a service business. And things, and they went into a completely different orbit when they acquired companies like Disco in 2018, then BCV in 2019, and then My Hotel Shop in 2020 or 21, right? So that is where, that is where the main crux of the value of rate 2017 के पहले whatever RateGain was doing was not recognized. The only reason for that was there were so many competitors of RateGain. RateGain के पास एक ही advantage था because it was targeting hotels in the US, and this company was based out of India. They were offering all their services at a very, very, very discounted rate. But that doesn't mean that there were no competitors. There were many competitors, more in the Western countries, but there were companies in India as well who were competitors, and that is where RateGain was not recognized in that way, right? But when they started vertically integrating their operation, मतलब जो पूरा वैल्यू चेन है, पहले वैल्यू चेन में क्या कर रहे थे, मैं खाली डेटा प्रोवाइड करूंगा या डेटा से रिलेटेड इनसाइट दूंगा कि आपका कॉम्पिटिटर क्या कर रहा है, राइट? एंड देन लेटर ऑन व्हेन दे टारगेटेड, एंड उसका एक रीजन ये भी है कि टिल देन the OTA economy was also not there, right? If you talk about 2006, 2009, 2010, not many people were using the OTA channels to book their hotels, book their airlines, right? That has happened in the last 10, 12 years only. So that is where they look up to this change in the business model, and that is where they started providing these services. And you can see the journey. And even if you talk to today's, if you see their presentation and you attend their calls, so they very clearly project कि हम लोग को ये पता है कि we will not diversify, we will focus only on the revenue maximization part, and we'll only focus on the travel. Travel itself is a bit wide area because it contains hotels, OTAs, airlines and car rentals, which is still a very untapped territory. But we are very open to evolving as a technology company. So what RateGain was doing in 2006 or 2009 or 2014 or even in 2018, technologically, they have significantly changed in the last 2 years, 3 years. And that is where they keep on saying that 2-3 साल बाद, 4 साल बाद, you might see them evolving even more and reinventing them in terms of the technology offering, because you don't know how. आज हम लोग को पता है कि लोग सोशल मीडिया के थ्रू और सोशल मीडिया कैंपेन के थ्रू भी people get converted. Who knows, something new come up in the next few years, and that is where they try to keep an open mind and they say that कि हम लोग उसके लिए भी तैयार हैं, right? So now let's come to the market, how big the market is. So as you can see in this slide, so total addressable market is close to $12 billion in 2025, and that's a huge number. And they also they not only use the word TAM, they also use the word SAM, which is serviceable area market, wherein उनका आज के दिन जो product suite है, जो current situation है, and where they are present today, how much of that market they can actually serve. They can't serve the whole market, but they can probably serve a part of it. So उसका भी यहाँ पे किया हुआ है कि around $8 billion is something which they believe that they'll be able to serve by 2025, right? So that is how big the opportunity is in this sector. Just this is one of my favorite slides from their presentation, because just look at how they are present in across the value chain. OTAs देख लो, airlines देख लो, hotel chains देख लो, package provider देख लो, car rentals देख लो, cruise lines देख लो, everything देख लो, सब जगह पे they have all the big names you can think of, right? You are not seeing Indian hotels names for a reason. We'll cover that later. So what are their future plans? Their future plans are very clear. Right now, MarTech is the division which is growing the fastest. So it is growing somewhere around 70-80% का growth आ रहा है उसमें year on year, right? So this is where they'll be focusing on, and they believe they can, even though this is one division where their gross margins are the lowest. So right now the gross margin of MarTech is around 60%, which they believe that they will be able to scale this business and move towards say 65 to 70. But in their DaaS and distribution business, they have gross margins in excess of 90%. और जो 10% भी आप सोच रहे हो कि कहाँ लग रहा है, so most of it is in the data center and all. So that is how lucrative this business is, right? So MarTech में सबसे बड़ा advantage MarTech का अभी ये है कि MarTech is actually their newest division, and they have a huge cross-sell opportunities. Right now, 13% of their what do I say? Distribution customers use MarTech, and similar kind of percentages in case of the DaaS customers using the MarTech. So just look at the cross sell. आप नए कस्टमर को तो भूल जाओ कि नया कस्टमर कितना एक्वायर करेंगे and all. Even within the same organization, within RateGain, they have huge opportunity to just cross sell these 3 products. So मतलब MarTech DaaS को भी देना है और distribution वाली कंपनी को भी देना है, and similarly distribution वाला जो इनका ये है business है, they can cross sell to the MarTech customers which they have hired because of their My Hotel Shop acquisition, right? So that is the kind of huge cross sell opportunity, and probably the biggest driver of value for RateGain in the coming years is this cross-sell opportunity. Because here they don't have to worry about too much about external thing, because customer is already there with you within your organization, right? Scale DaaS and distribution offering, obviously, but so even though distribution and DaaS, they have a much higher gross margin, but in distribution and DaaS, the growth is much lower than what it is in case of MarTech. So they're trying to build capabilities so that they can further grow these two offering as well. And the beauty of their model is they are completely asset light in all these three things. They will only need funds for acquisition. If they want to acquire a customer, वहां पे उनको funds की जरूरत पड़ सकती है. Right now they have a good funds available for them with them. But in future, if they want to grow, they'll have to look for funds. That's a different matter. We'll go together. That will come later. But आज के दिन अगर आप बात करो, at the current stage of their business, they don't need any extra fund because all these three business throws up a lot of cash and they are self-sustainable on their own. In fact, distribution business is their cash cow. जहाँ पे कुछ खर्चा है ही नहीं, वहाँ पे आराम से उनको cash flows आ जाते हैं, right? So strategic investment and acquisition opportunity. So this and the next slide, which I'll be covering now, this is probably the most important part of their journey of RateGain. So I think if you just subtract Disco, BCV and My Hotel Shop from RateGain, it will become a very ordinary company, right? And we all know, we are all students of finance and investing. We know how difficult M&A is, not just in terms of valuing the company whom you are acquiring, but also in terms of integrating the operations, right? And then if you are buying a sick unit or a sick company, then turning it around is also a big challenge, right? So that is where we believe that the biggest advantage of a player like RateGain is this, that they have a great team in place. So if you look at their CFO, Tanmay Das. Okay, so Tanmay Das in his previous stint was, I think, working with ENY also. ENY or Pricewaterhouse, I'm forgetting which of the companies. But he has an excellent track record in M&A. Okay, so, and there is an interesting story of Disco. I've already covered the Disco story earlier. So what they always believe in, we had in our personal interaction with Tanmay Das, he revealed to us that at any point of time they are looking at somewhere around 100 companies to acquire, and then they zero in on one. That is the kind of preparation they do, and he is very mindful of the fact that he says that 90% to 95% of M&As fail. So we are very, very, very disciplined when we are buying a company. They never overpay. That is the biggest discipline they have. So I've already shared in the Disco example, they let the Disco acquisition go to the competitor because they thought that no, we'll not pay that much for the company. And luckily, 6 months later, Disco was presented to them at a even more conservative value. And that is where they turn it around. But the biggest important fact is they will never buy. That is what they say. What we as investors have to see is whether they continue this discipline or not. Because many a times management project to you a certain discipline or a certain way of doing things. And probably they start on that journey as well. But later on, in the quest of growth, they forget these principles. That is where our work as investors come in. We have to keep on analyzing what is the price they are paying. Are they paying now higher? See, if the management tomorrow acquires a company at say 3 times sales rather than 1.5 times, they will definitely give you a very good, how do I say? They will give you a very good reason why they have paid more for that. But you as an investor, or we as an investor, we have to understand that, see, this is where management is changing their track, and we should be very mindful of that, and we track it even more closely, right? So what the CEO says, Bhanu Chopra says in all his calls, is that three things they look at in terms of acquisition. या तो वो प्रोडक्ट की सबसे पहले इनके प्रोडक्ट में वो कैपेबिलिटी होना चाहिए कि इट विल बी एबल टू मर्ज दैट न्यूली एक्वायर्ड कंपनी. सेकंड, अगर प्रोडक्ट है तो फिर उसके बाद ज्योग्राफिकल पेनिट्रेशन मिलना चाहिए. सो दे आर ऑलरेडी वेरी वेल पेनिट्रेटेड इन द नॉर्थ अमेरिकन मार्केट. से समथिंग गिव्स देम a very good penetration in somewhere like the South Asian market, which is also a very good travel destination. वहां पे भी कोई अच्छा penetration मिल जाए. So then they will look at that kind of opportunity. And the third one, which is very important, is what a point-to-point competitor is already doing. That is also where they keep a close watch. What do I mean by point-to-point competitor? So someone who is not probably a direct competitor to RateGain, because RateGain is offering all the three suites of offering. But there will be competitors who are only in, say, the DaaS business, or only in the distribution business, or only in the MarTech business. So they will keep on looking at the competitors and see what they are doing. If they what the competitor, point-to-point competitor, is doing, and they find value in that, and they think that that could be a very good acquisition candidate, they will try their best to acquire that company. But as I said, they will have this discipline of not paying too much for the acquisition. And if you look at the last three acquisitions, they have done pretty well, and that gives them the confidence that they have a very good track record of turning around loss-making companies, and in fact in record time. So Disco was bleeding money, and the erstwhile owner was just dying to get rid of it as soon as possible, and to change and make it turn around and be profitable in 6 to 8 months, and in fact, sorry, 1 year, 9 months to 12 months. That is not a mean achievement at all, right? So what they did, first of all, what they did is, both of them, the CEO and the CFO, Bhanu Chopra and Tanmay Das, they immediately went to US, met the company after acquisition. After acquisition, they went there. They clearly demarcated what they have to do. So the CEO was focusing more on the customer and the supplier side, and the CFO was working on the operation side. So what the biggest turning point, or the biggest trump card which they played, was they moved the data center from US to India, and that changed everything drastically. Because data center maintain karna in US and maintaining it in India is a completely different ball game in terms of the cost of maintaining it, right? You all know how expensive a data center guy would be in US compared to in India. So just वो एक change करने से ही उनको बहुत बड़ा एक boost मिल गया in the profitability part. So in fact, we asked them why they are maintaining the data center themselves. Why are they not going for something like AWS or Azure? So the management was debating that thing, and so we saw that the CFO and their marketing guy, he's Ankit Chaturvedi or something like that, I'm forgetting his name. They kept discussing and debating, in the sense that what works better. So probably in the future, you may see them going for something like AWS or Microsoft Azure, which will further decrease their cost of running the data center, and that way their gross margin, which is right now is already 90%, can further go up, right? But we don't know whether they'll do that, because they might go against that, and they might want to control the whole data center within them. So that only time will tell. But the main purpose of sharing this discussion is that they have a very healthy discussion within the team and they are open to new ideas. They are not rigid. As I said, focus पूरा है कि कौन से मार्केट में क्या वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन कितना करना है, बट फोकस के साथ में वो इवोल्यूशनरी माइंडसेट है. इट्स नॉट दैट दे आर प्रिजनर ऑफ द पास्ट कि भाई जो पास्ट में कर रहे हैं बस वही चलाना है, right? So that is a very good trait you can always find in new and enterprising business owners, right? They will not be rigid in their mind. So this is the competition landscape. So you can see it is a highly competitive industry. ऐसा नहीं है कि RateGain जो कर रहे हैं वही एक अलग सी कंपनी है जो सब कुछ कर रही है. There are much bigger companies competing with RateGain in all these three departments, be it DaaS, be it MarTech, and be it distribution. You can check online about the so this SiteMinder is a Australia-based company, and they are not only in distribution but they are also in DaaS, right? So in a way, they are closely competing with RateGain because RateGain is into three vertical, but they are already in the two verticals out of those three. But the biggest advantage or thing which RateGain keeps on claiming, which we have to keep on validating. See, sitting in India, this is the problem or the limitation of research. When you are sitting in India and analyzing or researching a company, जिसका market अभी आज के दिन is predominantly in the US. That is the problem or the limitation we have. We don't know how things are going on. So we have to keep ourselves on toes and keep on searching. कि RateGain claim तो कर रही है कि जो काम ये कर रही है और कोई नहीं कर रहा है. In the sense that they are the only vertically integrated company in the world is what they claim. As investors, we have to keep on validating that claim. We cannot just take management's views on face value and just be relaxed कि नहीं बोलो तो सब कुछ कर रही है. This is where we have to keep on doing homework, and this is what we call maintenance due diligence. Due diligence खाली stock खरीदने के पहले नहीं होता है. Due diligence actually starts when you buy stock. You should have to continue that maintenance due diligence, so that you have to keep on evaluating or validate whether what the management is saying is actually working or not, right? Now, there are some of the financial metrics, or maybe before going into financials. So we are anyways moving into the last part of the meeting. So maybe we can take a break here, and if anyone has any question related to anything we have discussed till now, we can take that. Avadut bhai always have questions, so that's very, very encouraging because you put in some really good points. Yeah, please go ahead, Avadut.
Ankit bhai, any of this competitor, is it listed one so that we can look at their reports or something, annual reports, presentations?
So I don't know about all, but see, I found that Derbyshire is their biggest competitor because I think the biggest trump card of RateGain is their distribution business, which is Disco, right? And Derbyshire claim that their volumes are much higher than RateGain. When we asked this question to the RateGain management said that Derbyshire is unlisted. Whatever their claims are is not true. Their volumes are exactly in the same range of what RateGain is. So that is what we got from the management. So that is what I said. Now this is the challenge of analyzing a company like this. You have to keep on searching and reading a lot. There is a online publication, Skift, SKIFT. So we follow their Twitter handle also, and I've also taken a free subscription of their newsletter. I would highly recommend anyone who wants to keep a tab on how the things are moving in the industry, because this is very important when you are studying a business like RateGain, because यहाँ पे बैठ के आपको इंडिया की मीडिया में कुछ न्यूज नहीं मिलेगा, right? You will not find. So I just checked. So we have subscription of the Ken, and the other one, the Morning Context, newspapers आ रहे हैं, Morning Star है, सब कुछ है. There is one old article of the Ken on this thing, RateGain in 2019, pre-IPO. उसके बाद कोई RateGain के ऊपर में कुछ है ही नहीं. You will hardly find anything related directly to RateGain anywhere in the Indian publication, and that is where you have to do the hard work. एक step extra जाना पड़ेगा. You have to look for publications which are outside. So this SKIFT, Skift, is a very good publication. Uska, I think there is a paid model also, but right now the free model is working pretty well for us, and we follow them on Twitter also. So Twitter में they keep on posting. So वहाँ से भी काफी कुछ detail मिल जाता है कि what things are happening in the industry, and we have to keep a close watch there. You can't just take what management is saying or bus relax, right? Yes, Abdul bhai, you can ask.
Understood, Ankit bhai. Thank you. That's it from my
side. Your hand was raised, so I thought you have other question also. Okay, great. Anyone has any more question, or shall we move ahead? So we have covered the introduction where we try to explain to you how you should analyze a business like this. Then we covered all the different businesses or different business verticals in which RateGain is present. Now we'll have to look at the financial metrics. And now again, financial metrics over here is not the usual financial metrics like revenue, cash flow, profit and loss, EBITDA margin, and जिसको बोलते हैं ना कि कितना inventory turnover and all, which we do in a traditional business. It's a SaaS business, so you have to do some work. You have to understand some sort of SaaS technology. Okay, SaaS terminology, not technology here. So, but what I will try to do over here, we will try to explain it in a very, very, very layman language. We will not get into the formulas. Anybody who is interested in the formulas, you can go and check on net. In fact, one of a very good investor who has a good following on Twitter as well, Amaya, and I'm a big fan of him, and I do look up to his insights on technology and SaaS based company. He had actually done a free webinar on, I think, Tamil Nadu Investor Association, specifically on SaaS, understanding SaaS businesses. So I would highly encourage anyone who wants to understand the basics of SaaS, they should definitely watch that video. It's a 1.5 hour video. And I actually went through, our team, we watched that video, and we got to know a lot about that. Really helped us as also. And it's a free video available on YouTube. But I will not get into the details or technicalities or the formulas. I'll try to explain it. So what I did, I made a hack wherein my wife is a practicing chartered accountant. So मैं सोचा कि SaaS के बारे में how can I explain it to her? So I looked at her business and just thought how the SaaS metrics will work for her. So I think that way you will be able to relate to it, because the CA's profession is something which we all understand. किस तरह का काम होता है, क्या नहीं होता है, right? So first, understand LTV to CAC. What is LTV? LTV is long-term value of a customer, and CAC is cost of acquiring that customer. Forget about how you calculate LTV, how you calculate CAC. It's given in the company's presentation. It's very easy to break that down. But understand these metrics in the sense that all good quality SaaS companies have an LTV to CAC of somewhere between 3 to 5. So that is where something like 12.9 is extremely good for a company like RateGain. It's extremely good. As investors, you should look at it with some sort of suspicion. You should not be why I'm not saying he's making this. Obviously, when companies saying you have to, unless you have some proof, you have to believe that these numbers are true. And But you have to keep a watch on this number for the next 2-3 years at least to see whether this is sustainable. मतलब 13 तो छोड़ दो, अगर अब सस्टेनेबल बेसिस में 8-9 भी अगर हुआ, 10 भी हुआ, तो that is way ahead of the industry. My sense is that this number is probably high because of some bump up we have seen, or the kind of revenge travel we saw in the last 1 year after the opening up. That might have something to do with it. And plus, at the same time, management did some changes, acquired some new companies, so they might, that could be the reason, and we'll only get to know in the next 2 years, 3 years whether it's sustainable or not. But this is one important way of looking at whether the company is doing well. If a company is having an LTV to CAC of less than 3, you should consider that SaaS company as an average mediocre SaaS company. And if it is having less than 1, that means it is burning cash. मतलब वो कंपनी में तो आपको इन्वेस्ट करना ही नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि वो कंपनी जितना लाइफ टाइम वैल्यू है कस्टमर का, उससे ज्यादा तो उसको एक्वायर करने में ही खर्चा कर दे रही है. So that is a company which you should completely try to stay away from, right? So this is one important metric, which is LTV to CAC. The other one is, what is the net recurring revenue? What is the gross recurring revenue? Now, let me explain with this example. So as I mentioned about my wife being a chartered accountant, see, so I told her when I was explaining it to her that you have your legacy whom you are serving for last, say, 5 years, right? So there will be client, just let's take 2 examples. Client A, jiska she does GST, internal audit and income tax. Client B, jiska she does only GST and income tax, no internal audit. Now, if the same client has been there for the last 5 years and she has been able to continue her services and charge him the same amount, so from and extrapolate that कि सारे client वैसे ही है, that means she is having 100% recurring revenue, wherein no new, as in you are not losing any business from your client, right? Now, when they say that their gross recurring revenue is 98%, that means of their existing client, so जो client FY21 में थे, उनका जितना भी business उनको FY21 में मिला था, 98% of that business stayed in FY22 also, right? This is what net gross recurring revenue means. I hope we'll take up in the question answer also if anybody has, but let me complete this first. The second is net recurring revenue. Net recurring revenue में again go back to the CA वाला example. If, for example, client A जिसको 3 सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रही है, that client say कि नहीं मेरे को 3 नहीं चाहिए, अभी 2 ही चाहिए. So that means you are having a churn in your business. What churn? The kind of business you were giving, or the 100% जो business मिलने वाला था client A से, अब वो 100% नहीं मिलेगा, maybe 80% मिलेगा, 20% churn हो गया, because that client is no longer requiring that 20% of that business. Client B, which was taking only 2 services, now said that okay, you do my internal audit as well. So client 2 को क्या बोल रहे हैं, client B का क्या हुआ, churn के जगह बढ़ गया business. So when इनके केस में क्या हुआ कि अगर आप 100 रुपीज का बिजनेस इनको आप पहले प्रोवाइड कर रहे थे, तो क्लाइंट ए में क्या हुआ, आपको चर्न हुआ, विच इज 100 का भी 80 हो गया. क्लाइंट बी में क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ बिजनेस बढ़ गया है, सर्विस ऑफरिंग बढ़ गई है, दैट 100 हैज गॉन अप टू 120. नाउ व्हेन यू कंबाइन और मिक्स देम, वो नंबर हो सकता है समवेयर बिटवीन 95, 100, 105, कुछ भी आ सकता है. सो नाउ कम बैक टू RateGain. When they are saying they are having net revenue, net recurring revenue of 114%, which means कि जो existing clients थे FY21 में से, उसमें से कुछ लोग चर्न हुए होंगे, जो लोग चर्न इन द सेंस कुछ सर्विसेज आज की FY22 में नहीं ले रहे होंगे, बट उसी में से कुछ क्लाइंट्स ऐसे भी है जो नए सर्विसेज इतना ऐड किए कि इनका नेट रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू बढ़ के 114% हो गया है, विच इज अ वेरी हेल्दी साइन, राइट? Normally a good SaaS company means your net recurring revenue should be somewhere between 115 to 120 is considered as a very good SaaS company. So that is what the management is aiming at. By offering better value to their customers, they are trying to increase it to from 115 to around 120 in the next couple of years. So that is also one easy metric for us to now understand and track कि भाई इनका ग्रॉस रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू क्या जा रहा है, LTV to CAC क्या जा रहा है, एंड नेट रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू क्या जा रहा है. So these three are major SaaS related metric which we need to keep a track on. See, मैंने बहुत ही देसी स्टाइल में जिसको बोलते हैं ना आपको समझा दिया है. If you want to get into the details of the formulas and all, everything is available online. You will get lots of blogs. I have read all those blogs, but मैं वैसे समझाऊंगा तो it will be a boring discussion. And the best source I told you, yeah, I think Avdut also mentioned that he'll share the link. So you can go through that video that will open up any doubt you have in mind. And the last point is gross margin. Now, when you look at gross margin, they're saying 76% of gross margin in FY22. So gross margin would have been 90% if they didn't have the MarTech business. So MarTech business is the business where the margin is pulling, so that business is pulling down their margin, but that is the business which is growing the fastest, and that is where they believe that कि वो grow होगा, volumes और बढ़ेंगे उसमें. There also they will see an uptick in the margin. So right now, as I said, 90% margin है distribution में and इसमें DaaS में. The DaaS business and distribution has 90% margin, and MarTech has 60% margin. Just imagine if they can. What they are saying is that the MarTech this business will grow at a 50% CAGR over the next 2, 3 years, 5 years. If they manage to do that, their margins of the gross margins of even MarTech will go up, and that will lead to even better margins going ahead. Somewhere between say 76 से वो लोग बढ़ के और 80% आने का scope है. So see, as an investor, you should always have some kind of mental models, price points, in the sense कि या metrics in your mind कि भाई अभी अगर if you are interested in a business like RateGain, क्या क्या चीज ट्रैक करना है. पहला मैंने बताया था कि कॉम्पिटिटिव लैंडस्केप को ट्रैक करना है, आपको रीड करना है रेगुलर. You have to get hold of foreign magazines. Everything, easy part is that everything is available online, free of cost. You don't have to take a paid subscription, right? So SKIFT is what I've SKI ki SKY, I'm forgetting right now, but Skift is the name of the publication. You should definitely read that. Keep yourself updated. उनका weekly अच्छा आता है, and you should read that at least once a week. If you will read, you will be very much updated about the industry. Second is keep track of these. Second is the competitive landscape. देखो कि competition क्या कर रहे हैं. Claim कर रहे हैं ये लोग कि vertically integrated है. देखो vertically integrated कल को कोई नया player भी आ सकता है, right? या वो खुद जो कुछ हद तक वर्टिकली इंटीग्रेटेड ऑलरेडी है, वो खुद इसको कॉम्पीट कर सकता है कल को. वी डोंट नो, राइट? सो यू हैव टू कीप अ टैब ऑन ऑल दीज थिंग्स. एंड लास्टली यू हैव टू कीप अ टैब ऑन दीज 4-5 मेट्रिक्स कि भाई ये क्या कर रहे हैं. LTV to CAC, direction wise, see, you have to look at the direction. If LTV to CAC consistently maintain भी हो गया या 8 to 10 के आसपास भी रह गया, it's a very good thing. But if you see it consistently following 13 से 10 हुआ, 8 हुआ, 7 हुआ, 6 हुआ, that should worry you. कि वो लोग कुछ तो ऐसा कर रहे हैं, अभी नया कुछ ऐड किए ऐसा कि जहां पे दे आर बर्निंग कैश, एंड which makes their business model unsustainable, right? So these are some of the numbers you can see. You can see the strong profitability in different divisions. You can see the cash flows, how they have been going on. And abhi bhi aap dekhoge, one important point is that their adjusted EBITDA is still not where it was in FY19. That means pre-COVID level. So one reason for them for that is the management claims is that they are ramping up their, if you go to screener and see उनके employee cost, मतलब right now when I'm talking about employee cost, मैं ESOPs को भी हटा के बात कर रहा हूँ. अगर आप ESOP is definitely a big part of their cost. Last year उनका IPO आया था, तो IPO related ESOPs उन्होंने issue किए थे अपने employees को. But even if you take that out, they are spending a lot on the employee thing, in the employee cost, because they are scaling up in all the 3 divisions, and that is where the EBITDA is still not where it was in FY19. And also keep in mind, in these last 3 years, they have also done 2 big acquisitions, right? So acquisition करने के कारण भी वो जो 2 company है, उनका जो employee cost and other development cost is higher than what the cost of standalone RateGain has been. So that is why it will take some time, right? But SaaS companies को अगर आपको evaluate करना है, तो you have to look at a different metric, which is the power of 40. I'll cover that power of 40 in the subsequent slide for your understanding. So these are the metrics you can see. FY22 was a very good year. यहाँ पे I'll just try to caution you on one thing. They also have seasonality. So अपना Q4 is their market का Q1. As in their major market is US, right? And US में Q1 is January to March. India में Q4 is January to March. So Q4 of India, let's not confuse Q4 पकड़ते India वाला, हाँ? Q4 is their best quarter. So last quarter was their best, seasonally their best quarter, and Q1 is seasonally their weakest quarter. ठीक है? So ये seasonality हमेशा आएगी उनके numbers में. You should look at the year-on-year performance. That will give you a much better picture than looking at quarter-on-quarter performance. Because quarter-on-quarter you will always find that variation, as you find in all the travel companies in India, right? Seasonal business है तो उसके हिसाब से होता है. हालांकि for them the seasonality occurs mostly because all the budget of tech spend happens in the first quarter for all the companies, and that is where they plan for the whole year. So they get all the orders, majority of the orders get built up in Q4 of any financial year for India, and which is the Q1 of US, right? But you can see from a year-on-year perspective, they have done pretty well in the last 2 years, specifically after the COVID restrictions were gone, and hopefully we are now in a post-pandemic era. And if COVID-like disruption doesn't happen, they are on the path of growth as they show in their numbers. Now, this is another important slide from their presentation, which we have taken. So look at the revenue by engagement. So SaaS companies generally they make money in 2 types of model. One is subscription based, the other is transaction based. But यहाँ पे इनके केस में क्या है कि ये subscription based भी करते हैं, transaction based भी करते हैं, and hybrid भी है, जहाँ पे subscription भी है, transaction भी है, right? So if you look at DaaS and this one, Martech, that is more or less subscription. DaaS and the distribution वाला, उसमें mostly subscription based है, but distribution में they also take transaction based. कि कितना आपका transaction होगा उसके basis में they charge their customers. So there is a hybrid model also built in, and similarly in Martech also it is a hybrid model where एक वो fixed भी रहता है कि annually वो अपने customer को कितना charge करेंगे, plus based on milestone basis they also get some thing. So transaction based भी रहता है उसमें भी, right? So that is how they make money. So this is revenue by engagement. In terms of travel type, leisure is predominantly their bread and butter. So 95% of their revenue comes from leisure, which is a good thing only because business में ऊपर नीचे भी हो सकता है, right? So during times of depression or recession, you will find corporates cutting down on their business travel. So that affects the business, right? So having a lesser exposure to business actually helps them, right? Now, The third one is revenue by geography, which is very important for us. And that is where I want to share with you an important point. A company which is based out of India, run by an Indian promoter who has been a bootstrap, outstanding promoter, and still having majority of its customer in North America. What does it say about? So number one is there is a geographical concentration risk that we have to be aware of. वो तो है ही. But you also have to understand how different India's market is compared to US. And let me tell you how. Let me give you an example. सबसे पहले, in fact, I was listening to this very good interview of Kunal Shah of Cred with Shane Paris of Farnham Street. I am 100% sure that almost all of you know about both of these gentlemen. So one guy who is probably one of the best entrepreneurs in India, startup founders in India, is talking to someone who has already covered and discovered the best minds in the world. So it is a very, very, very enriching discussion. I would highly recommend, again, free of cost, available at YouTube. And in that interview, he said something which is very relevant to our discussion in on RateGain today. What he says is that many US-based companies, they don't understand or they don't figure it out that या पहले figure out नहीं कर पाती थी जो आज figure out कर ली है कि the market in India is very, very, very different from US. So US में, say, let me give you an example. If you are a company which is having an engagement program done in US, social media engagement program, so आपका converting about the number of conversion, 20,000 say Twitter followers में US में होगा, उतना आपका इंडिया में अगर आपका ट्विटर में 1 लाख फॉलोअर्स होंगे उसमें भी नहीं होगा. That is how difficult market में. It doesn't matter how much is your pool या वो जो बोलते हैं पेनिट्रेशन वो बहुत स्कोप है. Of course इंडिया में, इंडिया के होटल्स में, इंडिया की OTAs में बहुत बड़ा अंडर getting to that. Advertising out of it is a complete different task. So यहाँ पे what is more important is ARPU, which is average revenue per user. So number of users बढ़ाना बहुत easy है इंडिया में because you don't have to do anything. यहाँ पे population इतना ज़्यादा है कि you will always get so many users on your platform. But can you monetize them? That's the that's the most difficult task. And that is why a company like RateGain is not predominantly focusing on Indian hotels, because इंडिया के होटल कंपनीज के मेन साइकी कैसी होती है कि अरे यार इतना खर्चा इनको रेगुलर करके देंगे, उससे अच्छा मैं अपने आके बंदे रखता हूँ, वो लोग बना देंगे ऐसा सॉफ्टवेयर, यही सब तो करना है, मैं सस्ते में आदमी लेके वैसे कर दूंगा. Even the big companies have that kind of a psyche in India, and that is where their market is in US. Most of the market is in US, Europe, and some other countries in the world. So don't think that when you say that, when कोई भी अगर बोलता है ना कि opportunity size India में कितनी बड़ी है, you should always look at the next level, how easy it is. एक बहुत अच्छा relevant example है. So for non-members, we had kept this session for a small fee of 300 rupees. यही अगर हम लोग free करते तो कितने लोग आ जाते? Do you think people who have not opted for today's session find 300 very expensive? No, it is more about the psyche. It is not about the affordability. So as investor, you have to understand about the psyche or the behavior of the consumer. And that is why something like a RateGain probably will have a much bigger market in India also, only if Indian hotels and resort companies will have that kind of a psyche. Today, we don't see that. Let's see what happens in the future. But that is where this geographical concentration is a big risk. US रिसेशन में गया, US में ट्रैवल कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ, कोई ओसामा बिन लादेन जैसा फिर से कोई अटैक हुआ, that will not only have an impact on the revenues and the operation, but also sentimentally investors लोग भी एकदम डर जाएंगे कि भाई इसका तो सारा बिजनेस ही वहीं से आता है. So that is a big risk which you should always keep in mind. How do you mitigate that risk? I don't think there is any way to mitigate that risk other than having a diversified portfolio, because you will never find any company without any risk, right? Then you can see the revenue by customers. Top 10 today form 32. So we have seen a declining trend. It used to be somewhere around. So in fact, before the private equity guys invested in the company, 2013-14 tak ki baat kar raha hu, there 70 to 80% of the business used to come from one single customer. That was the kind of customer concentration risk this company was having. And from that, they have come a long way. And as what you can see from the management's discussion and commentary on the con calls, they are working really hard and adding more customers. So right now they have 2,400 customers. So you can see how they are improving on that count. We have already discussed about the gross revenue retention, recurring revenue, and client count and LTV to CAC. So I'm not discussing again and repeating that thing, but you get the major important metrics which we have to look at, right? Now, this is what they have guided for the next 3 to 5 years is what they are looking at. They believe that the MarTech business will grow at 50% year on year. Distribution will grow at 25% and DaaS will grow at 15%. And overall, that means overall revenues will compound at 30% CAGR for the next 3 to 5 years. That is what the management guides you. And आप अगर RateGain जैसी कंपनी को नहीं देखे होंगे तो you might feel कि अरे यार 30% CAGR, how is that possible? But when you actually look into their business, understand how the business model works, they are already growing at a much higher pace. So 30% is actually achievable if they don't goof up anywhere in any of the division, और या कोई बहुत बड़ा कोई acquisition में कहीं कुछ failure कर दे. Then apart from that, we don't see any problem in the this thing. And another is the rule of 40. So again, you can Google about it and read. There are many literature available on the net. SaaS companies generally follow the rule of 40. What do I mean by rule of 40? वो लोग दो चीज देखते हैं, growth and the, as in revenue growth and EBITDA margin. So SaaS companies का बोला जाता है एक thumb rule है कि EBITDA margin percentage plus the growth rate of revenue should be closer to 40. If you are hitting that mark consistently, that means you are doing good. So what do you mean by that? या तो आप 30% CAGR से हर समय ग्रो करो और 10% का EBITDA मार्जिन रखो, या 20% से ग्रो करो 20% EBITDA मार्जिन रखो, या इवन 10% से ग्रो करो बट आपका EBITDA मार्जिन 30% हो. When you are hitting that number 40, दोनों को ऐड करके 40 हो रहा है, that means you are doing well. So if you look at FY22 number, they are more than 50 actually, because उनका 40% year on year growth है revenue में, and the EBITDA margin is anyway 10%. But here a word of caution. Last year could be an aberration because of, as I said, revenge travel and pent up demand. We don't know. FY23 should be a normalized year, and how they perform in this year on all these metrics which we have discussed, that will be a good indication of how you can look at RateGain, right? So this was about the, I think we have covered now all the financial metrics. What is the organic growth guidance? Now let's come to valuation. So here we'll discuss, as we mentioned in the disclosure, our disclaimer at the start, that we have RateGain Travel Technologies in our SIP portfolio, but we don't have it in our lump sum portfolio. I'll just spend 2 minutes to explain you why. In our SIP portfolio, what our investing philosophy is, you take a 5-year plus view and you don't try to time the market, and you solve the valuation problem by buying in slow quantity over a period of 2 years, 3 years. So we are buying there in SIP, accepting the fact that it is available at a very, very, very high valuation, right? But in case of lump sum portfolio, we still don't have the stock because we believe that market may give us an opportunity. We may be wrong, we may not get that opportunity, and we may end up buying even higher. But today, at this 31st of July 2022, we believe that there is a scope. Why do we think that there is a scope? कुछ भी US related problem हुआ, there could be a thing. कुछ भी something which may not be related to the business, market related issues हुआ, stock can tank. Or what we have seen in something like say Zomato, which was falling for so long, and then that anchor investor का 1 year वाला condition खत्म हुआ था last week. So there was a heavy selling there. I think this RateGain got listed in November or December last year. So around that year, again, that 1 year window will open for the anchor investors here as well. Who knows, you might get a selling there. I'm not saying wait for that only. You may not get a selling there. Company can do well, but this is some possible chances or possible events which may give you a better entry valuation. Having said that, this is a company, a SaaS-based business model, where the revenues are predictable, scalable, recurring, and resilient. I have just shared the valuation multiple of all the big renowned SaaS companies in the US. And you can see on the right side, most of them have a revenue multiple around 10x or more than that. In fact, in the year 21, FY 21-22, that period, so FY 22 wala period mein to most of them were between 15 to 20, 25. Kuch log 30, 35 tak bhi chale gaye, right? But even if you look at current scenario, you will find all good quality startups in US trading at somewhere between 8 to 10 times sales. And that is where RateGain is also positioned right now. Plus, given the fact that RateGain is a much smaller company with a lot of tailwind, so RateGain kitna positive hai ya kitna powerful hai as a business, as an investment idea today, try to combine these three things. Number one is gross margin. Number two is operating leverage. Why operating leverage? To incrementally scale their operation, they will hardly need many people. They will hardly need any capex. क्या होगा? Data center में आदमी बढ़ाने पड़ेंगे, sales team थोड़ी सी बढ़ानी पड़ेगी, and that's it. They don't have to do a capex like a cement company or a manufacturing company, right? So that is the non-linearity in the business model, right? So when you have that kind of a potent combination of high gross margin, very high is actually an understatement, very high gross margin, upward of 75%, very high operating leverage, non-linear growth opportunities, and plus you have, apart from then that you have growth in the sense the huge sector tailwind which we have seen in the travel companies now. So if these three things keep on continuing for the next say 3 years, ज़्यादा दूर का तो कोई vision रख नहीं सकते. So then it is difficult to say whether you will be able to get the share at the normal traditional companies valuation or not. If you make it, that's a jackpot, I would say. But that is what you should keep in mind when you are studying a companies like RateGain, right? So I think this is the last segment, which is RateGain versus Cartrade. I think this is very relevant because both these companies are new age companies. We covered Cartrade in, I think, January or February Mission Smile webinar. And both these new age businesses are similar in the sense that they are both profitable. They both have very good market standing, and they both are having a good cash balance with them, which gives us the confidence that probably you should pay attention to both these business models, right? But before going there, since we have covered a lot of part, if anyone wants to ask any question, we can take that up and then we'll move to the last session. last segment of the session. Anyone has any doubt? Okay, great. So Avdut bhai, you can go ahead.
Ankit
Amar,
bhai?
I'll get back to you.
Ankit bhai, one question about acquisitions, whether they were majorly US focused,
Yes. All
and
were majorly US focused,
and
and
because
that
of
makes
that,
sense for them.
the revenue is skewed towards North America. Is that the reason that has happened?
So North America का skewness तो शुरू से था. It's not that कि only acquisition related आया है. Acquisition has been done in the geography of America, because America is where they have the biggest market, and that is where they did the acquisition in that space. So ऐसा नहीं है कि because of the acquisition, this, in fact, the American dependency was pretty high prior to 2014 as well.
Okay. But because of acquisition, that it got enhanced. That's right, right?
I would not say that. I would say it because of acquisition, they have also got, so like डिस्को होने के कारण उनको सिर्फ अमेरिका से बिजनेस नहीं मिल रहा है, आउटसाइड अमेरिका भी बिजनेस मिल रहा है. सो इट हैज एक्चुअली हेल्प देम टू प्रोबेबली कट डाउन. आई डोंट हैव द नंबर्स, वी कैन चेक दैट 3 साल पहले क्या था. आई डोंट थिंक वी हैव दैट डेटा राइट नाउ, बट my sense says that ki something like Disco and Martech has actually expanded their or further diversified their opportunity basket. So that is where I would tend to not agree that कि उसके कारण अमेरिका वाला और बढ़ गया है.
Okay. Again, second point on the acquisitions itself. Any data you have that these were the acquisitions they made, how that or whether they report that these are the current status of acquisitions, how they were earlier, and in that sense, any slide you have there covered accordingly.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So
What did
you
say?
mentioned about Disco that they acquired it and it was not making profits earlier, right? And after acquisition, they turned it around in 10 or 12 months, something.
They have not given. In fact, this was our question to them in our private call with them. So they said that they in fact, even if you read the DRHP, you will hardly find anything on Disco or Disco related acquisition, right? So Disco related acquisition, उसका डेटा उन्होंने उसमें भी नहीं डाला था, DRHP में भी नहीं डाला था, and you will hardly find it in. But if you keep asking the questions on the con calls, you will definitely get, because they keep sharing everything on the con call.
Okay.
So whatever we have gathered is only by talking to the management, either on the con call or separate call with them.
Okay. I have two more questions.
But yeah,
I can wait in the queue, or you can take other questions, or I can go ahead, whatever.
Maybe Avdut, we have one section left. We'll take that after that.
No issues.
Okay.
No issues. Just about the SaaS model, I had a question that whether their fixed costs are covered by the subscription-based model, which would be recurring, or ARR, whether it covers the their fixed costs, or how's the gap, or what's
that we have to check. That is something which I'll not be able to say right now, but we can definitely find that out.
Okay. And
maybe afterwards we'll share those details after the presentation.
Okay, no problem.
But that is a good question, Avdut. Thanks for asking. We'll find that out and share.
Okay, thank you.
So let's move to Amar. Let me just unmute you. Again, I'm losing my. So Akhilesh, I see your question on the TAM. So TAM we have already covered in the previous slides. So total addressable market is $12 billion is what RateGain claims. And they also have a metric called SAM, which is serviceable addressable market. So even the serviceable addressable market is pretty well, which is around $8 to $9 billion. So what we mean, I'm just repeating that thing. Maybe you'd have not listened to that portion. So serviceable addressable market is that market which you can service based on whatever products you already have or which is there in the pipeline over the next, say, 2-3 years. Right? Yeah, Amar, I've unmuted you. You can go ahead now.
Yeah, Ankit. So you mentioned that today RateGain is more kind of like rated 10x the sales, right? I was just trying to relate it to Screener. So in Screener, I go to profit and loss and look at the revenue, which is the top line, and multiplying it should give me the market cap. That is how I say 10x to sales, right?
Yeah, around 9 to 10 कुछ ऐसे ही है जितना मुझे याद है.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
I think it's somewhere around 300 crore का sales है and then 3000 something crore का market cap है.
Got it, Ankit. Yeah, that is what I was looking for. Thanks.
So then let's quickly, I think we have already overshooted the time. Thank you for your patience. So we'll just move to the last segment and then we'll close or maybe take further question if anyone has. So RateGain versus CartRate. Since all our Mission Smile members have already attended CartRate Tech's presentation, we'll just that that may be some sort of a repetition, but I think it is very relevant here because there are a lot of similarities and dissimilarities, and when you compare two different business models, your understanding of looking at different businesses get better, right? That is the whole purpose, nothing else. So sort of similar. So I've taken the market cap of after yesterday's close. So both of them have similar kind of market cap, similar kind of revenues. So both of them are somewhere around 10 times their sales, which looks obscenely high because we are not used to this kind of valuation. And that is why, that is the challenge of investing in companies like this. And that is why I told you that why we have not yet had RateGain in our lump sum portfolio, but it is there in our SIP portfolio. However, again, a disclosure, CartRate is there in both the portfolio because CartRate got a much sharper fall in February, March. So we were lucky to have CartRate because I think at that time it came down to around 6 to 7 times sales. And that is where we bought in our lump sum portfolio also. Again, a disclaimer, as a SEBI registered RIA, this is not any thing to do with any recommendation. Do your own analysis and take a call only after taking consideration of a trusted advisor. We as an SEBI RIA entity, we must make this disclosure that we own the stock because you should be aware of our biases, if any, would be, right? So stakeholders involved, in case of CartRate, there are OEMs, dealers, customers. In case of RateGains, so CartRate is not just B2B, but also B2C. But in RateGain, it is completely B2B. CartRate में you will see new car में एकदम duopoly है, मतलब 50% is on car देखो and 40% is with CartRate in new car business, technology business, right? As in the online business. So that is the kind of advantage they have. Samil, again, the Shriram Automall, they have a monopoly. And in used car, it is a extremely competitive. There are many players. But in case of RateGain, as we have discussed, there are many competitors, but all of them are, most of them, in fact, are point-to-point competitors. The advantage with RateGain is it is probably the only vertically integrated player having presence in all those three segments. Right? Now let's come to the competitive advantage. So CartRate has a competitive advantage of being only player in India to be present in the entire value chain of online and offline ecosystem of buying, selling and auction of cars, bikes and other vehicles. So यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हो vertical भी है और horizontal भी है. Vertical कैसे है कि they are there present in the whole value chain. ठीक है, ऑनलाइन भी कर रहे हैं, ऑफलाइन भी कर रहे हैं, डीलर्स को भी कैटर कर रहे हैं, कस्टमर्स को भी कैटर कर रहे हैं एंड ओईएम्स को भी कैटर कर रहे हैं, राइट? एंड देन हॉरिजॉन्टली कैसे है, कार्स है, बाइक्स है, अदर व्हीकल्स भी है, राइट? सो अदर व्हीकल्स मतलब ये जो बड़े बड़े व्हीकल्स होते हैं जो श्रीराम ऑटोमॉल में ऑक्शन होते हैं, सो दोज आर आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ देयर बिजनेस नाउ. सो just to give you many people who might not be aware of it, CartRate Tech holds 54% in Shriram Auto Mall. Okay, then RateGain में we have already shared vertical model है. addressable market size Cartrade Tech का much bigger है क्योंकि ये industry is in a far nascent stage compared to RateGain because RateGain में because of OTAs in the last 10 years that industry has already seen some growth. So probably Cartrade Tech is a much niche, much nascent industry compared to RateGain. Promoter experience दोनों में बहुत अच्छा है. If you look at Vinay Shangi, he has more than 2 decades of industry experience in the car business, car dealership business. So earlier, first 10 years was more on the physical side, and then the last 10 years is on the both physical and digital side. Look at Bhanu Chopra also. You will see 2 decades of experience because 2004 में he started this company. So it's almost close to 20 years now. The only difference we found in the promoters, थोड़ा सा ऐसा लगता है कि Vinay Sangvi is not as confident as Bhanu Chopra, but maybe that is because of some personality. Because ऐसा नहीं है कि he doesn't have a clear cut strategy. Strategy सब उसकी भी set है. It's just that the way our interaction with both these entrepreneurs, we believe Bhanu Chopra comes across as a much focused and confident person compared to Vinay Sangvi. Right? Then you can look at the formation early years. So RateGain शुरू से एकदम bootstrap थी 2014-15 में जब P investment मिला उसके बाद they scaled up their business and that made them go into a completely different orbit. Disco फिर आपका ये My Hotel Shop and all ये सब acquire करने के बाद इनका business का एक level ही अलग हो गया है, right? And in case of Cartrade Tech, it predominantly started as a VC funded business because 2010 में एक PE investor was a co-founder, and then they acquired car wale, bike wale, Samil over the years after that, right? So IPO RateGain में और Cartrade में difference ये था, छोटा सा difference, in fact छोटा नहीं है, बड़ा difference है. IPO of Cartrade was completely OFS, so no money went into the company, and if you check the valuation at which Cartrade was IPO'd, so it was obscenely high price. I think somewhere around 25 times sales या 30 times sales था सर, ठीक है. However, RateGain was 15 times sales. So 10 times, 15 times is something which is very reasonable compared to other SaaS players in this. So इनका IPO एक तो reasonably valued भी था, plus it was a mix of OFS and new issue. So some money came to the company and company actually utilized that money in paying off its Silicon Valley loan. So that is an advantage for RateGain. Plus promoter still has 50% plus stake. That is also an advantage there. Business model ecosystem we have already discussed. यहाँ पे horizontal, vertical दोनों हैं, but RateGain में ज़्यादा focused है, vertically integrated ज़्यादा है. Again, acquisition history you can see. Cartrade Tech probably paid up for acquisition. RateGain is much more conservative while doing acquisition. Again, in our books, in that perspective also, RateGain will get more points over Cartrade because Cartrade is paying up, whereas RateGain is being much more conservative. Another way of looking at it is probably RateGain will lose out on some of the opportunities because they are so focused on being conservative on the price. However, Cartrade is much more flexible and they might keep on getting new opportunities because दोनों के पास cash है and दोनों को acquisition करना है to further grow. Cartrade has around 1,000 crore cash. RateGain has around 450 crore cash lying with them, which they will only use for acquisition because both their business model is such an asset light model कि वो अपने business के लिए उनको जरूरत ही नहीं है cash की, as in extra cash की, right? Their internal accrual is more than enough for their sustenance and growth, right? Future potential, online car buying, selling and auction is, we have discussed it's at a very nascent stage. So it is not a question of if, it is question of when. And in case of RateGain, we have already seen post-pandemic how revenge travel has been going up. And so in case of RateGain, यहाँ पे एक negative ये है कि it is a cyclical business. Travel is a cyclical business. यहाँ पे अभी आज के दिन everything looks hunky dory. 2 साल बाद 3 साल बाद, if something happens to the sector, that will affect the growth pattern of RateGain. However, Cartrade Tech में you get a very clear next 8 years 10 years का view, because ऐसे ही ऑटो इतने पीछे स्लो डाउन से निकला है, it is coming up from there. Plus new as in this is an irreversible trend of people buying cars online. आप लोगों में से बहुत लोग सोच रहे होंगे कि ऑनलाइन कार कौन खरीदता होगा, बट इट इज एक्चुअली हैपनिंग. एंड इफ यू सो 2 दिन पहले इनका ये आया था, क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट आया था. लुक एट देयर नंबर्स, मतलब 3 करोड़ ट्रैफिक है देयर उनकी वेबसाइट पे, एंड 80% ऑफ दैट इज ऑर्गेनिक, राइट? So both these companies have 25 to 30% CAGR revenue possibility for the next 3 to 5 years. Very few companies have that kind of visibility. I'm not saying कि guarantee है कि आ ही जाएगा, but to keep on saying and to show that vision कि 25 to 30% CAGR is possible for the next 3 to 5 years, very few companies in India will be able to say that, right? And key risk, Cartrade may we have already covered in our previous presentations, that more competition from VC funded players and slow pace of digitization are the biggest risk. In case of RateGain, पहला risk तो है कि revenue and geographical concentration risk. Second, we have already discussed again the travel wala. And the third, which we actually forgot to mention over here, is acquisition risk, which is there for both these. Okay, acquisition, past is not an indicator of future. Past gives you some confidence. Last 3 acquisition RateGain के बहुत अच्छे हुए. That doesn't give you anything you can't say for the future. कि अरे आगे जितने भी लोग acquisition करेंगे वो सब अच्छे होंगे. So, and acquisition, to do the acquisition rightly at right price and then to integrate their operation with your existing operation is not something easy. So that is a big risk for both these companies. So investment thesis, again, quickly, we have already covered everything. Large addressable market, huge cross-sell opportunity. That is a big thing because already DaaS के बहुत सारे कस्टमर है जिनके पास मार्टेक का बिजनेस वो लोग सेल कर सकते हैं. सिमिलरली मार्टेक के कस्टमर जो नए इन्होंने एक्वायर किए उनको DaaS का एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का बिजनेस दे सकते हैं. एसेट लाइट मॉडल, we have already discussed that. Highly predictable, scalable, recurring and resilient model. So even during the pandemic, they had decent numbers. ठीक है, growth slowdown हुआ था, but still they had decent numbers in FY21 as well, right? Now, no investment thesis go away without the risk involved. Concentration risk we have already discussed. Vagaries of the travel sector. We all know how pandemic hit the travel sector. So travel is a sector which is always prone to these external shocks which you don't know. कल को कोई बॉम्ब मार देगा यूएस में, कल कुछ नया कुछ हो गया, कहीं पे भी कुछ भी वर्ल्ड वार या any geopolitical situation, all those things clearly impact the travel sector. So that is one of the big risks. So हम लोग ने पॉजिटिव्स की बात की है, so don't get sold on that and believe that कि RateGain को कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. RateGain के पास भी बहुत important risk है which we should always keep a track on. Third, we have already discussed how highly competitive this market is. Whether RateGain will be able to be competent enough and be relevant enough by being a only vertical integrated player is something we have to keep on watch, right? And the number 4 is B2B player. जहां होटल कंपनीज, एयरलाइन कंपनीज अपने स्पेंड्स कम कर देंगे, कितना ही अच्छा बिजनेस मॉडल हो, कितना ही कुछ कहो, इनका रेवेन्यूज तुरंत में हिट हो जाएगा, राइट? सो दैट दीज आर द 4 big risks involved with this business. So now we have covered everything. I'll just like to leave you with this closing thought. Acha, actually before that, I also have this Philip Fisher 15-point checklist, because I believe this Philip Fisher book of Common Stock, Uncommon Profit is a very, very underrated book. Why I say underrated? Because I think growth investing के लिए, or when you are investing in companies which are highly, which have the possibility of high growth, you should definitely keep referring to this book again and again, right? And why I say so? Because यहाँ पे एक 15-point checklist Philip Fisher has already prepared for us. And I may be wrong, but I have never come across any company which have ticked on all the 15 parameters. So that is why it is the Bible. तो आप कोई भी ग्रोथ कंपनी अच्छी देख रहे हो ना, आई थिंक इट मेक्स सेंस टू डू सम मेंटल चेकलिस्ट कि अगर एक बहुत ही हाईली ग्रोथ कंपनी दिख रही है, समथिंग विच इज समथिंग इन द न्यू बिजनेस, ठीक है, ऑलवेज ट्राई टू डू दैट. सो वी ट्राई टू डू दैट फॉर RateGain. Does the company have products or services with sufficient market potential? Yes, we have discussed that in the presentation. Does the management have a determination to continue develop products? They have already demonstrated that in the recent acquisition, and then integrating that acquisition and also turning around those loss-making businesses, right? How effective are companies' research and development efforts? We are seeing, as we saw in that chart, in their whole 18-year journey, how they have kept on reinventing themselves and evolving in the new technology, right? So that is where also, does the company has an above average sales organization? We would like to believe yes. I would not say a resounding yes, but we would like to believe yes, because that is how they are entering into an area which is, so this is a company which is predominantly India operated, and they have been able to capture market share in other geographies. That goes a lot to say about their sales organization. Does the company have a worthwhile profit margin? Of course, profit margin, when the book was written, he might have thought about PAT margin. But when you are considering a company like RateGain, and when we are discussing in a world where we are evaluating SaaS-based models, you have to look at not profit from that net profit margin, but you have to look at gross margin. You have to look at how those SaaS metrics fare well for this RateGain and all. And so on those metrics, as we have discussed earlier, it is already doing well. What is company doing to maintain or improve its profit margin? As we discussed earlier, non-linear growth. How it will maintain or improve the profit margin? Incremental growth के लिए उनको incremental capex नहीं करना पड़ेगा, या incremental capex जो होगा which will be very low compared to their incremental revenue. The only capex they will be doing will be when they acquire new companies, right? So अगर steady state में आज अगर आप RateGain का growth chart, just imagine, we don't believe in Excel model and projecting the thing, but if you take a DCF frame of mind and understand, अगर यही state में RateGain grow करती है, what they are saying, and that was organic growth guidance, not inorganic growth. So just look at how their balance sheet and how their margins will look 3 to 5 years out, right? So यहाँ पे भी click हो गया. Does the company have outstanding labor and personal relations? So we are fan of the CEO and the CFO, but we have not interacted or not seen enough of the overall management bandwidth. So I think over a period of time only, you have to keep tracking this and see whether this works or not. Does the company have outstanding executive relation? Again, this will need a lot of time. अभी तो company list हुई है, 6 महीने में it is impossible to make a judgment on that. Does the company have depth to its management? I would say yes, because it takes a lot of management bandwidth and skill set to change the DNA of a company which was always a bootstrap, organic-led company, to completely change from that to become an acquisition-friendly company and continue to do not 1 but 3 acquisition in a very positive way, which has enhanced the value of the company. So that is why I would say the management depth is probably very good. How good are the company's cost analysis and accounting controls? We have looked at all the SaaS related metrics and it looks very good today, but of course we have to keep on looking at it. Are there other, this is number 11 is very important. Are there other aspects of the business somewhat peculiar to the industry involved, which will give the investor important clue as to how outstanding the company may be in relation to its competition? So right now, what is that? It is the only vertically integrated SaaS-based operator serving to the travel hospitality sector. you have to keep on tracking whether they remain the number one, remain the only player, or if the competition comes up, how strong or weak that competition is. Okay. Number 12 is, does the company have a short range or a long range outlook in regards to profit? So as we have discussed in the presentation again, a long range focus to hai ki on maximizing. So wo focus is there कि we are not going to divert our attention to doing something else for the customer. मैंने आपको बोला ना कि ERP भी कर सकते हैं, then they can also go into management contracts and all, but they are not going into anything. Simple focus clear है, maximize revenue potential by making sure that three things: acquiring customer, retaining customer, and number three is increasing the wallet share from those customers, right? The 13th point is, in the foreseeable future, will the growth of the company require sufficient equity financing so that a larger number of shares, again, equity dilution के ऊपर है. Steady state में, as we have discussed, they don't need any equity raising, and they have enough capital right now in their books to do acquisition also. If you look at their size of the previous acquisition, the next 2-3 years, 5 years का acquisition के लिए भी पैसे तो है अभी तक, अगर उसी size का acquisition करते हैं तो. Does the management talk freely to investors about its affairs when things are going well? Again, 2 con call हुए हैं, बहुत थोड़ा time हुआ है public में आए. You will need time to it, but you should keep on updating this checklist. That will give you a very good mental idea how the company. And I would say focus only on growth companies when you look at this checklist. अगर आप value investing कर रहे हो, in the sense deep value investing कर रहे हैं, then you are following this checklist, it will be of no use to you, right? The last one is, does the company have a management of unquestionable integrity? We will not pass that judgment so easily. It's too early to say that. So that was all about the 15-point checklist. I know I have taken a lot of time, but I'll take 5 more minutes to just share the last slide, which I believe you must take home with you, because that is very, very, very important. Just. So, mind you, this is a 1996 HBR article which we have taken, and we would highly recommend, if you are a growth investor, if you are looking for investing in companies which are somehow new, or if you take the terminology of what Vijay Kedia says, legendary investor Vijay Kedia sir says about sunrise industry, you should read this book, which is Increasing Return and Path Dependency in the Economy. If you are following us on Twitter, you would have seen a few tweets based on this book. And it's a wonderful book because in a way, it talks a lot about the surfing principle, which Charlie Munger has been saying for last many years. But it goes one step ahead of what Charlie Munger says. So Charlie Munger was talking about anything new which comes, or what you learn from Vijay Kedia sir is कि sunrise industry में जाना चाहिए. But यहाँ पे this author Brian Arthur, he talks about not just any new business, but those businesses which have a certain characteristic. We'll come to those characteristics. But apart from that, from a business owner point of view and also from an investor point of view, this is a very important thing. Social media is a very good place to see how investors are putting their views. Most investors were, as in, there was a stampede to buy shares in the IPOs for new age companies. And today we are seeing just the reverse. Everybody is painting all the new age businesses with the same brush, saying कि यार ये लोग का कुछ future नहीं है, ये लोग कुछ cash flow नहीं है, कोई profitability नहीं है, कुछ नहीं होगा. That is a wrong way of looking at business. That is a wrong approach. See, someone who has been in the investing industry for say 30-40 years, and he or she is at a different stage of their life, they might have that kind of a view. But I'm assuming that all of us who are there in this webinar today, we are all young investors. What do I mean by young investors? We still have 20-30 years of compounding ahead of us. So for us, adaptation is very important. You can't just brush aside कि नहीं यार ये new age companies ये लोगों को business नहीं आता है. Adaptation means watching for the next wave and positioning the company. आप investor के जगह पे company को replace कर दो investor को to take advantage of it. Adaptation is what drives increasing returns businesses, not optimization. And what do I mean by adaptation and optimization as an investor? Adaptation means you keep on experimenting with new things as an investor, and also as new businesses come, you try to do that. You don't try to optimize everything. I think I'm forgetting the name of this wonderful Morgan Housel in his book. I'm forgetting the name of the book also. Sorry. So in his book, The Psychology of Money, he writes it. There is a chapter where he focuses on being more reasonable than rational. So as an investor, we have this tendency of becoming more rational and try to optimize कि ये स्टॉक 3x हो गया है, अभी इसको रोक दो, इसमें से निकल के कुछ दूसरे में जाओ जो बहुत ज्यादा सस्ता मिल रहा है. सब कोई अभी ओल्ड इकोनॉमी स्टॉक्स को बेच रहे हैं, सस्ता मिल रहा है, उसको खरीदो. बट we at Triple S, we have this philosophy of trying to do less optimization and try to be a more adapting to the new world. And that is where you get exposed to the new wave of investing or new wave of companies and businesses which come to the forefront from time to time. And what kind of businesses Brian Arthur is actually talking about? He's talking about try to look at companies where the economy shifts steadily away from the brute force of things into the powers of mind, from resource-based bulk processing into knowledge-based design. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can read and you can watch the video later also recording. But I'll just give you one example. Like we discussed about BKT at one of the slides earlier when we were trying to discuss about the ancillary, right? So BKT is an old economy business. They are resource-based bulk processing business. Of course, it's a good company. It has generated a lot of wealth for the investors. But if you take a 10-year view from here, and if you compare I'm not saying I'm comparing two stocks, BKT and RateGain. I'm just trying to compare two different industry. Okay. The scope of growth and sustainable wealth creation for a business like BKT. I'm not talking about BKT in particular. I'm just talking about BKT like business with a business like RateGain. You will have to understand completely different businesses here. So the BKT is in the business of diminishing returns. What do I mean by diminishing returns? In आज BKT का advantage है labor arbitrage. आने वाले दिनों में वो labor arbitrage धीरे-धीरे कम होगा. It has actually gone down. So just to give you an example, 15 years ago, the difference between the price, difference between the price of BKT tires and all the all its competitors, the developed market competitors, वो जो difference था, it was 50%. It came down to 20% around 2012-13. Today, if you talk about, it is somewhere around 10 to 15%. And if you look at this trend, 10 years down, it will further decrease. Why it is happening? Because the economics is not going to be the same. The cost of to grow their business, they'll have to keep on investing in capacity. Inflation, you know how the inflation works, right? So the return on equity on incremental capital is not going to be what it used to be because BKT is in a resource-based bulk processing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying BKT is a bad business, but I'm just trying to explain you the difference between diminishing returns business and increasing returns business. Now, coming to the increasing returns business, यहाँ पे अगर if a company like RateGain keep their act together to incrementally grow from here, they will actually make more return rather than what they used to make in the past, because incrementally बढ़ाने के लिए, grow करने के लिए, they will require much less capital, right? So that is where you should pay attention to these new businesses. It's okay if you don't understand it. It's okay if you don't, if you are uncomfortable with the valuation, but don't dismiss them just by saying that नहीं नहीं जब तक ये वो हमारे ट्रेडिशनल वैल्यूएशन मैट्रिक्स में नहीं आएगा या जब तक ये कंसिस्टेंटली एबिटा मार्जिन और कैश फ्लोज उतना अच्छा नहीं होगा, वी विल नॉट इन्वेस्ट इन देम. दैट इज अ रॉन्ग वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट दीज बिजनेसेस. So with this, we come to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for listening to us. And again, I would just want to repeat the disclaimer that we have been holding the stock, so we are buyers. This is not a recommendation. Take your call, but I hope we could add some value to your understanding of RateGain as a business. If you are awake and if you are willing to ask any question, you can ask now. I don't see any hands being raised. Acha. Avdut, yeah, Avdut, I think you had some earlier question also. So, yes, Avdut, go ahead.
Ankit bhai, thanks for the extended session, 2 hours and 41 minutes. The efforts you have put in is really incredible. And thanks for increasing our circle of competence. We don't have approach to deal with such businesses. So now you have given us the approach to how to look at them. First of all, thanks for that. And 3 questions. First is, if you look at Samil of the car trade, that is having the positive or the that provides the cash flow for the other businesses. Is that correct understanding? So
Yeah.
So accordingly,
no, I would not say it provides the capital for the other businesses, because so that is not how they look at their businesses, because they are a VC backed company. They always had funds in their bank and they never looked at कि शामिल से कमाएंगे और इधर डालेंगे. But you are right that it is the cash cow. That is the business from where the free cash flow is getting generated today.
Okay, so on similar lines, which vertical in the RateGain is
distribution? Their distribution is their cash cow. So they have mastered that business very quickly, and that is where they are getting most of the cash flows, and they are extremely profitable there. Yeah. Anything else, Avdut?
2 more questions. First, about whether they have a separate M&A team in place, because they
yes. So they do have that, and that is what they keep saying that in all their conversation and commentary. So I would believe that they would not be lying about it. They do have that, and they take acquisition very, very, very seriously. And you can probably Google and read about it a lot, and we can take this offline also. We can discuss a lot. And the management is very open up, very candid on the calls. You can ask all the questions related to them on the con calls also. So you can see we asking them question on several things on the con calls. In fact, we had one separate call with the management. I think the transcript was not released, but we can share our learnings. I think we wrote a thread also on that.
Okay.
On Twitter. I'll share that thread with you.
And last thing is, so if you look at growth, I looked at the customer list. So whether they're focused to premium customers or the premium brands, because a hotel chain will prefer to have them, right? A single hotel, whether they have such kind of customers, and how the growth will pan out, because at certain point of time there will be a threshold, there won't be much larger hotel chains existing, then how come growth will come and the cross-selling part of it?
Yeah, I think this is probably the best question anyone has asked in today's presentation. Very good question. So that is why you can see what management is saying. The growth rate of DaaS and the distribution segment is much lesser than the MarTech. So MarTech is where the growth can be seen sustainably over the next, say, 5 to 7 years at least, because social media engagement will be there.
Okay.
Existing customer का भी रहेगा, and cross sell कुछ दिन तक तो कुछ सालों तक तो रहेगा, because existing customers में ही बहुत सारे लोग हैं जिन लोग सारे यूज नहीं कर रहे. But you are bang on this part that they will reach that threshold, and let's hope that some of the Indian hotel chains they grow up and become their customer in the next say 10 years. आज के दिन तो I don't think say something like say Club Mahindra will be able to be their customer today.
So geographical expansion is one part where they will have a growth over there. That's
Geographical maybe na, if you look at the resort industry na, so outside the US, Club Mahindra is the biggest resort company in the world. So just imagine how small is the market in that sense.
Understood.
As in small in the sense the premium market I'm talking about.
Correct.
Which you are talking about.
Correct.
Right.
Understood.
So that is where this is one risk where agar baki geographies mein, see another thing which you should always look at is the kind of premiumization you have seen in the US economy. I think that will happen in India also. We just can't predict the pace of that happening, but India will also go through that pace. How fast or how slow that will be, that is anybody's guess. I would not like to guess on that.
So developing economies would be the next target for them in that case.
Yeah, but the current focus of the company is to focus more on the MarTech, because MarTech में क्या है ना कि existing customers को भी next 10 years 20 years तक भी ये काम तो करना ही है ना, until unless social media platform change होके कुछ नया कोई technology आ जाए.
Understood.
Right?
Understood. Thank you, Ankit bhai. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Abdul bhai. Any other question from anyone? Can't see. Again, I'm unable to find my cursor. I don't know what is happening today. But anyone has any question, please type in on the chat box so that I can see and then we can take that up. So it's already 2 hours 41 minutes. I would only say that thank you so much, all of you, each one of you, for patiently hearing our presentation. And we just want to close with one small request. If you really found value in what we have presented, please speak about it on the open platform like Twitter, tagging our Twitter handle so that we can retweet and reach out to many like-minded investors like you. So with this, I think we come to the end of the presentation. So thank you, everyone. I think Avdut has a question. Yes, Avdut, please go ahead. Let me just unmute you. Yeah, Avdut, you can go ahead.
No, Ankit bhai, I just wanted to thank you for this extensive session of 2 hours and 48 minutes and the efforts you have taken to present it. Very lucid manner you have presented it, and with the differentiation, it has made very much clear at the end of the day, at the end of which slides you have presented the differentiation. It has been very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Avdut bhai. Anything else anyone wants to say, or shall we close it? I think everybody would be hungry now. So that's it from our side. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.